Okay, everybody, can you please take your seats? We have a quorum. Good morning, everybody. The December 6th Board of Directors meeting is called to order. First, I'd like to ask our interpreters to explain how to access interpretation. Please go ahead.
Good morning. Announcement from the interpreter. To use the interpretation feature, please scroll to the bottom of the Zoom screen where the meeting controls are. Click on the interpretation icon, the world, and select English as your language. If you are joining through the Zoom mobile app, cell phone, tablet, etc., please press the ellipsis, then the interpretation, and then choose your language. Finally, click on mute original audio to not hear the original Spanish flow in the background. Headsets are available for interpretation. If you are in the meeting room, please check out a headset from the receptionist in the lobby. Aviso por parte del intérprete. Para hacer uso del servicio de interpretación, favor de desplazarse a la parte inferior de la pantalla de Zoom, donde aparecen los controles. Haga clic en el icono de interpretación, el globo terráqueo, y seleccione Spanish, español. Si está utilizando la aplicación móvil de Zoom por medio de su celular, tableta, etc., presione los puntos suspensivos. Luego interpretación y luego el idioma. Si no desea escuchar el audio original en inglés en el fondo, por favor seleccione Mute Original Audio. Silenciar audio original. Contamos con auriculares disponibles para el servicio de interpretación. Si se encuentra en la sala de reunión, favor de pedir auriculares con la recepcionista en el vestíbulo. Gracias.
Thank you. I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge the land that we call home. The tribal nations of the San Diego region have historically faced injustices. We acknowledge the harmony that existed between the land, nature, and its original peoples, who have since endured displacement, persecution, and systemic oppression. We pay our respect to the unceded territory and homelands of the 18 tribal nations in our region, the most in any county in the United States, from 4 cultural groups, the Comayay Digueño, the Luceño, the Cupeño, and the Cahuilla. This land has nourished, healed, protected, and embraced them for many generations in a relationship of balance and harmony. As members of the SANDAG community, we acknowledge this legacy. We aspire to learn from Indigenous traditional knowledge and experiences in undoing the injustices of the past. Now, please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Francesca, can you please confirm a quorum?
Thank you, Vice Chair. We do currently have a quorum. Absent today are the City of Oceanside, the City of Poway, and the City of San Diego, and the City of Vista.
Would you like to continue, Francesca?
Yes, thank you. Before we start non-agenda public comments today, I'd like to remind everyone that no comments shall use loud, threatening, profane, or abusive language that disrupt the orderly conduct of the meeting. Disorderly conduct that disrupts, disturbs, or otherwise impedes the orderly conduct of the board meeting is prohibited. Per our board policy, the amount of time allowed for each verbal public comment is determined based on the number of agenda items, the complexity of those items, and the number of persons anticipated to offer comment. This allows for us to hear from as many people as possible and to complete our business while we still have a quorum. Based on those factors, the chairwoman has determined that today's meeting, each member of the public will be allowed 1 minute for their comments.
Thank you, Francesca. The City of San Diego has arrived. And also, do we have any non-agenda non-agenda comments from the public?
Thank you, we do. Currently, we have 13 members of the public who'd like to speak on item 1. We'll start with truth and go to Michael Brando next.
And we'll take the first 5 and we'll trail the rest.
Of course, IB's beaches are closed again. Just imagine if Mexico's got billions from the OME toll without any commitment to wastewater infrastructure again. Well, now I have a vision 0 for sewage. 1 more day is too long. But good news, the OME toll is gonna fail because it hasn't started on a foundation of legality, so it's gonna crumble on a foundation of illegality. And speaking of health impacts, Matthew and Mitch, out of nowhere, I've had asthma for 2 weeks. Imagine if I cough through my 60 seconds from lack of oxygen. That violates equitable access, Title VI, and ADA obligations. I wanna see everyone advocate for an amendment to the Brown Act that specifies that no comment time anywhere shall ever be less than 2 minutes. An unnamed person in this room suggested that there's no accountability on this side of things. If I suddenly start cursing, name calling, or saying lies into this mic, will I still get respect? I have to pay my own way here, buy my snacks and meal after, cover losses, and at times even pay in health. I get respect wherever I go because I hold myself accountable. Oh, look at that. That's the rest of the speech. Thank you.
Our next speaker will be Michael Brando, followed by Clifford Weiler.
I wanted to take note that at the executive committee, there was a definite change of tone in Sean Elo Rivera. I guess he already left. I don't know if he's being coached or something, but his demeanor was entirely different. It was much, much better. Not interrupting people, not talking to Lisa next to him or anyone else. Whether or not he was listening, that's another thing, but the outward demeanor makes all the difference in the world, even if it's not always sincere. And I'm not making that as a judgment. I bring all that up because back in the fall of 2022, he was sending text messages, Sean was, to Nathan Fletcher, making fun of speakers in private text messages. That's where Truth got her buttons about being a public comment all-star. That's what we were called for mocking people. They were mocking us, but you know what I mean. I'm glad the change is happening. Thank you.
Our next speaker will be Clifford Weiler, followed by Shirley Weiss.
I'm Clifford Weiler, and I'm going to condense my 3-minute speech into 1 minute. First of all, happy holidays. I was here a couple of months ago to mention how much you do, and the public doesn't really know that. What the public knows, as is indicated probably by the loss of your sales tax proposition, is that you do a lot of things wrong, and they don't have any input to what they want done. I hope you get passed out as a hard copy survey that I proposed about the traffic. All your constituents probably have to face rush hour traffic in the morning and the evening. They don't like it. The only ones that like it are the ones that are getting divorced and don't want to go home. I suggest you contact them, find out what they want to do, let them have some input so they feel like that they have some say in what you're doing rather than just you making arbitrary decisions that don't have any impact on them. So many people are impacted by the rush hour. It's a life-changing situation. If you fix that, not that you can fix it, but at least let the public have some input. Thank you very much.
Our next speaker will be Shirley Weiss, followed by Alex Wong.
Good morning, distinguished members of the SANDAG board. My name is Shirley Weiss. I am a constituent of SANDAG and of NCTD and a taxpayer. I live in Del Mar. I've practiced law in San Diego for over 40 years. You are about to embark on a series of decisions regarding rail track realignment that will profoundly affect the coastal environment of this county, potentially devastatingly impact Del Mar, and severely impact Solana Beach before, during, and after multi-year construction. I have 2 requests. 1, I call on you to suspend the 1-minute rule in upcoming board and committee meetings to give residents in these cities and their organizations adequate time to orally address and present to you. 1 minute is a sham. 2nd, I call on you to make your value committee meetings open to the public. Any straw poll, vote, or discussion by that important committee in this important public process must be open to the public and publicly vetted. You give railroad interests virtually unlimited access to SANDAG.
Thank you. Your time
Please.
has expired. Our final speaker at the beginning of the meeting will be Alex Wong. And then at the end of the meeting, there'll be 6 additional speakers: Paul the Bold, Blair Beekman, phone number ending in 672, the original draw, Samsung A037U, and Catherine Rhodes.
The Green Line as well as the Mid-Coast Trolley both need at least 7.5-minute frequencies each as soon as possible. The Green Line serves Mission Valley and Grantsville, two of San Diego's fastest growing communities. The Mid-Coast Trolley serves University City, also one of San Diego's fastest growing communities. All this transit-oriented developments will make the Green Line and Mid-Coast Trolley's ridership cash cows. But to really milk these cash cows, you need 7.5-minute or better frequencies on both. Because if people have to wait up to 15 minutes for a 10-minute ride across Mission Valley or across UTC, they will drive instead. Why? Because 1 minute of wait time feels like 2 minutes or even 3 minutes of time spent on board the train or bus, as many transit researchers have found out. And it's not hard to see why, because when you're waiting outside in the elements, just going nowhere, it definitely is going to feel a lot longer than when you're on board a climate-controlled trolley or bus that is actually going to your destination. Thank you.
And that concludes the public speakers.
Thank you. Any non-agenda member comments at this time? Yes.
Hi, I just want to make a quick comment about this is the holiday season, and just want to make everyone aware that to drive safe, sober, and alert, and also that there will be a lot of holiday events, specifically today and tomorrow. Caltrans will have signage out because of December nights at Balboa Park, which attracts a large number of people, so that there will be traffic delays starting tonight, going into the weekend. So just be alert and watch for slowing or stop traffic. I would also like to highlight that Caltrans hosted the FHWA Joint Working Committee on Border Planning. It was a 2-day event where we hosted other state DOTs as well as Mexican state departments of transportation, federal and state entities on both sides discussing the border. This 2-day event really highlights border planning and the border master plan that helps support our community. And I just want to say thank you, SANDAG, for being a part of that and supporting our cross-border planning efforts. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Director Habud. Appreciate it. Anybody else on the board have any comments at this time? Nope. All right. So I have some comments. To begin, I'd like to remind everyone that we've canceled our December 20th Board of Directors meeting, and we'll be meeting next Friday, the 13th at 9 a.m. Also, I'd like to announce that SANDAG is seeking a qualified member of the public with 10 years or more of demonstrated experience in real estate, land economics, and/or right-of-way acquisition to fill a vacancy on the Transnet Independent Taxpayer Oversight Committee, or ITOC. ITOC aids in implementing the Transnet program. The San Diego regions have sent sales tax for transportation improvements and provides an increased level of accountability for the spending of Transnet funds. We invite dedicated real estate, land economics, and/or right-of-way acquisition professionals excuse me, to apply and help us to continue the vital work of the Transnet program. For more details, please visit the SANDAG website. I'd also like to take a moment to recognize and honor two of our colleagues whose time on this board is coming to an end. I want to make sure that each of you know how much we value your work here, the impact that you have made on the cities you serve and on this region. So first of all, Mayor Kranz, thank you, sir, for your leadership. You are a fearless truth teller. You definitely leave no room for wondering where you stand on an issue, and that's an admirable strength. Your voice has been a powerful reminder of why we do this work, to actually improve the lives of everyone in our region. Thank you for your dedication and for challenging us to always strive for more. Councilmember Hsu, your visionary voice has added tremendously to the work of this board. Your passion for enhancing transportation, always with a mind toward addressing the climate crisis, air quality, and the health of disadvantaged communities, has left a legacy we're proud to carry forward. We wish you all the best in this next chapter, and you have more than earned it. On behalf of the board, staff, and entire region, we extend our deepest gratitude to each of you. We thank you for your service and dedication, and we have some plaques and a photo to do. So if you could both please join me up here. Here is a plaque for Jack Hsu. And it says, let me just read this. It says, in recognition and sincere appreciation of your support for SANDAG and all the programs in which this agency is involved, we honor you and thank you for your unwavering commitment and dedication to the entire San Diego region. That's for you, Jack. Okay, great, wonderful. And Mayor Kranz, please come
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Okay. Mayor Vasquez, you're next week. Oh, of course, yes, Mayor Kranz, please.
Yes, it's been my honor to serve the city of Encinitas as an elected official for the last 12 years. I think that the city has accomplished a lot during that time, but of course, I'm very biased. And in the meantime, having had the opportunity to also serve on the North County Transit District Board for 10 years and for a time the chair, the work that is done not only in the regional transportation agencies, but also this metropolitan planning organization is super critical. And we had a commenter mention the challenge of successfully raising revenue for projects that are designed and developed here at this agency. And I would just like to encourage board members here to continue to work to reestablish credibility and come up with some planning efforts that will advance the needs of the region for public transportation. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, Councilmember Shu.
Thank you. And I promise this will be short and I won't mention VMT. You know, it's an honor to be an Asian American, but it's also an honor to be on this board. And I've learned a lot, and I hope I've given constructive contributions to this board. SANDAG is our only metropolitan transportation planning agency in this region, in our county. We have so much to do. We have no other means or entity to do this difficult work than this and this body. So the responsibilities that all of you have and will be continuing to work is so great. It's not just, as we know, moving people from one place to another, goods and services. It's also the health, the economy, and the quality of life of our region that we deal with. And the challenges are so great. So I hope I've provided some input as you go forward, and that you take some of my contributions in your deliberations and your hard work in the years to come. There's a transportation plan that's coming up again. We need to do better. We really owe it to the future, to our children and our grandchildren. So that's my kind of a quick message. I'll be involved with a few other comments later in today's meeting, but I'll do my usual thing for that. But in any case, thank you very much for the honor and the plaque. I would really do appreciate it.
Thank you to both of you. Appreciate it. I'll turn it now over to Mario for his update.
Thank you. First, I want to say to the ongoing board members, Mayor Krantz and Councilmember Shu, your guidance and input has been invaluable for this agency and to me and for the people in this region. I have appreciated your thoughtfulness, your honest guidance, and while working together. So I want to thank both of you for that. I really appreciate our one-on-ones that we have had. Earlier this week, the San Diego County Grand Jury released its findings and recommendations for the agency. This was emailed to the board on Tuesday. The 6 findings and recommendations are tied to OIPA, resources, general counsel, the ERP system, the culture, internal processes, and corrective action plans. Had already been working on and implementing recommendations and making the progress on each of them. So they weren't really no surprises. And like I say, we are already working on all those recommendations. a lot of progress ties into the discussions we had on the last board meeting with the board council, as well as today's meeting with my goals, setting up my goals, and the new positions that we're proposing for the internal controller for the agency, specifically around oversight and transparency and focusing on fundamentals and leadership structure. We have 90 days to respond to the report. We will be working with the board leadership to agendize the items of the response to be agendized in one of the upcoming board meetings. We will also work with OIPA and with the audit committee on some of those responses. Have shared with you in recent months, will restate my dedication to focusing on transparency and full commitment on spending the public's dollars in a diligent manner. Strategies, funding and federal strategic, funding and federal administration. We've been getting a lot of questions about what are we doing with the new federal administration? Well, we are developing a brand new strategy. We're trying to figure out ways of engagement with the new federal administration, with the new assembly, as it was mentioned, and as well as continue to work with the state administration. You know, there's been a lot of questions about the tariffs. They're being proposed. You know, I want to remind everybody that President Trump was the one who initiated the USMCA and issued the 2018 presidential permit for Otay Mesa East. So we're really confident that the new federal administration will continue funding infrastructure that it's needed. Locally, SANDAG is set to deliver, and I want to remind everybody that Transnet goes all the way to 2048. You know, multi-year capital budgets has been dependent and have been set up without considering any measures or anything like that that did not exist. So we are only considering the funds that we have seen and are tangible right now. Between now and fiscal year 2030, we have budgeted in our program about $2.7 billion between federal, state, local, and Transnet revenue. That's all contingent that those monies continue flowing, but that's, I think the message we want to send is we continue working, we have a plan, and we will continue delivering the projects. Item 4 gives an important overview today of our current financial status, and we will be bringing a comprehensive review to you in the new year. You know, item 4 basically talks about our bonding capacity, our amounts that we have bonded. What we will also bring in are the cash flows that the agency has on all the different buckets of money that it's, and I call it like that, bucket: state, federal, local. And that would give us an idea of the cash flow. So then we can also have a conversation on the needs and on priority of those needs. So I think that's going to be very valuable in the upcoming future. A couple of follow-up items on the annual transit report. At the last board meeting, we were asked to provide the transit report to the mobility working group and bring back to this board those comments. So we have agendized in the transit report to the mobility working group meeting for December 12th. Project updates. We will be bringing in at the next board meeting one of our annual reports where we highlight all the accomplishments that have been done during the year. On Otay Mesa East, as it was mentioned on the executive committee, Governor Newsom was here yesterday. SANDAG participated in a roundtable as well as with the governor's Office of Business and Economic Development Director, Didi Myers, State Senator Padilla, and some local business leaders. It was discussed Otay Mesa East in the Binational Congress. Also, like Roy mentioned, we did participate in the U.S.-Mexico Joint Working Committee. It was a 2-day conference where all the federal agencies from both sides of the border, as well as the 6 states on the Mexican side and the 4 states on the US side, border states, get together and talk about transportation planning. On the 125, as I mentioned in my email to you yesterday, we have identified an issue where some customers were incorrectly sent violations notices from their toll road. We are actively dismissing those violations for anyone this may have been impacted and are working directly with the vendor to address this situation. Let me explain. What's basically happened is for those who paid directly with a credit card, they paid directly with a credit card on the machines, and then they go ahead on the roadway. The system does not identify that payment and identifies it in some cases like if they didn't pay. They did get charged, they did pay, and then a violation notice gets issued. This has been going on and off. And in the letter, we mentioned the volumes and the percentages. So we're working on trying to get this resolved. On those progress continues on the value analysis technical study. Stakeholder participants, the fairgrounds, the Del Mar Fairgrounds, Caltrans, the North County Transit, Carlsbad, Del Mar, Oceanside, San Diego, Solana Beach are meeting later this month to narrow the range of alternatives to consider for the further study in the environmental process. A final study report will be released and shared with the board of directors and the public early next year. SANDAG will hold information sessions for the public to share more about the value analysis study findings. Then, with the board's direction, we hope to release the revised notice of preparation. At that point, the public will have another opportunity to provide feedback. I want to highlight that very importantly. The official and legal window to provide comments on an environmental document is during the NOP process and onward. What we're doing with the value analysis is we're working with the stakeholders, the cities and the agencies to basically narrow those alternatives to begin the process. So I want to highlight that. It's very important. On the bike program, some good news. SANDAG received the Circulate San Diego Safe Streets and Vision Zero Momentum Award winner for Pershing Bikeway, and also recognized last night at the San Diego Bicycle Coalition's Golden Gear Awards ceremony as Public Partner of the Year, also for the Pershing Drive Bikeway. That concludes my report.
Very good, thank you. Deputy Mayor Gastelum, do you have comments or questions of Mario?
Yeah. Executive Director, thank you for the report. I want to bring voice to 2 concerns about the value analysis that have been raised in Del Mar so that they're to your attention and ask for your potential feedback. One is the wish for some sort of interim report that gives the slate of weighted criteria that will be used for narrowing down the north portals and the south portals. That was a major issue the first time around. You know, how did the criteria get established? How were they ranked and how were they weighted? And I'm assuming that that's going to be part of the value analysis and will influence the output of the value analysis. Is there an opportunity for an interim? And that's the first of 2 questions.
Let me see if I answer your question here. The way it's going to be set up is during this whole process, there were objectives set up for the project and the alternatives. So what the team is going to be doing is going to be discussing with each of the reps from the different cities that I mentioned, as well as agencies, on their portal preferences based on those objectives. And then also for those alignments. Again, based on the objectives. The objectives are multiple reliability, not throwing away existing infrastructure, on and on and on.
And can I
Less
interject
public
that
impact.
we modified the objectives that came out in the original NLP, so they're more inclusive of what everybody wanted.
Yeah.
to
Do we have a
include. Go on.
one-pager with those objectives, the modified objectives that we can
Do
circulate?
do we have what, excuse me?
A one-pager, a list of those objectives, the modified objectives.
I think we do. Yeah, we've been sharing it with the city rep for Del Mar, but yeah.
Right, but that doesn't make it public, and that's what the public is worried about. Yeah, I think it'd be really helpful to lay those objectives out. It would help people. And then the second is the scope. The questions I'm getting are, will the value analysis include in some way looking at an I-5 alignment that starts further north, for example, at one or two places in Carlsbad where the tracks come within a few hundred feet of the I-5 corridor? And related to that, will the value analysis look at the long-term potential redirection of freight, as Mayor Krantz has raised, inland, for example, going along the Sprinter, which is freight capable?
I really think that you're asking for you're asking for the value analysis to actually do what the environmental document process is going to do. So that's why my statement was clear, that this is just to begin the conversation with some alternatives. Even the alternatives that get selected by the board to go into the notice of preparation, once the environmental document process takes effect, those can also be reconsidered based on all the analysis that's being done. But if we would to put all that analysis you're asking in the BA, we will never get to begin the environmental document process, which is the actual analysis window.
So thank you, because you put it really clearly there. And these questions that I've asked, I'm getting over and over from residents. And since I'm not on the value analysis team, I don't know the answers, but now I can point people to this and say, your questions will be answered in the environmental.
Absolutely, absolutely. This is just the beginning of a very long journey. Yeah.
Good. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councilmember Chavez.
Thank you, Chair, for that. Vice, how do I call you? Chair, Vice Chair, second Vice Chair. Thank you, CEO, for this important report. Thank you for the email that you sent out. So in the email we received, mentioned that improper notices of violation were sent to constituents. Can you clarify what steps are being taken to reach out to these users? How can they determine if their notice was issued in error, or how can they reach out to SANDAG? What's going to be the way we will move forward with this?
It's been through the customer service, and what the team has been looking into is normally out of the 9,000 users who pay with credit card, we get an average of 40 violations per day. When that's spiking over that average, we move forward and start cross-checking all the data. And as well as people are calling our customer service center saying, look, I have my credit card payment, it was made, but yet I got this letter of a violation. So we're doing some cross checks there, but it is through the customer service. It is quite frustrating. We're working with the vendor on that. It's a brand new vendor for that system. But we, in the most extreme way, if we see a very high spike, we will probably go and waive all the penalties for that day in that section, if it seems that extreme.
And thank you. I appreciate it. I had the chance to speak at the Chula Vista Chamber of Commerce First Friday breakfast about SANDAG, and I had an overwhelming group of people come to me and said, oh, well, I had a violation. And so I think our office is and the city is gonna be reaching out maybe with a link with.
That will be helpful.
Yes.
Yeah.
So thank you for that.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for the prompt information.
Thank you. Councilmember Shu.
Just like kind of a quick, I've never ran a business in which I took credit cards from patrons. So when I see these numbers, I really don't know what to make of them. So is there an industry standard for retailers or certainly toll roads in terms of number of incidents in which there's a problem with the collecting system or something like that? And are we above that by a significant amount? Are we below that? To me, that would give us some context. Out of 9,000 customers, is 40 too high, too low? I'm not sure if we can answer that question. If it may be very low, then we need to take care of these obviously and treat customers fairly. But we may be doing okay.
No, and I'll let Lucinda help me on this one, but definitely we call it a leakage percent, which is about 2 to 3% in industry. But that's why when we were seeing that it was spiking up, it was going over those averages, and that's what started raising our concerns. Lucinda, you want to expand on that?
That actually was really good. So 30 to 40 would be about average on 9,000, 8,000 people who pay credit card. Anything over that is more than your leakage. And that's when we want to make sure that we step in and assist the customer.
Great, thank you. And Mayor Jones.
Just talking about bike lanes, I just wanted to bring up the conversation or the comments that I had earlier, and that is on bike lanes, it would be helpful for us to have an analysis of whether a curb stop would be applicable in some cases. And honestly, from the cyclists that I hear from, they tell me that they're very unsafe, and then also the candlesticks. So just moving forward, wherever we're considering a bike lane project, I would like for us to think about, and honestly, it's probably a better value in many cases as well, if you are able to create a share-o versus a curb stop situation. And then we can actually expand the bicycle program further, in my opinion, because it is a little less expensive if we just added, some safety mechanisms to that, signage and that sort of thing. So anyway, I just wanted to bring that up. Thank you.
Can I just make one quick point? There's recent legislation that doesn't allow at least Caltrans to put a share on a facility that's more than, I believe, 35 miles an hour. And so I just want to highlight that to your comment, that there are some restrictions that we are legally unable to put those on higher speeds facilities. And so that's where separation comes in on higher speeds facilities. Just want to note that.
What are the speed limits downtown? I guess that would be my question. In downtown areas, it's generally much lower than that, or around that. So anyway. All right, thank you.
Thanks, very good. Okay, now we're on to consent. And before I take public comment, I'd like to mention that item 5, the proposed budget amendment to contract award for the Uptown Bikeways, will be deferred to next week's meeting. So Francesca, any public comments on consent?
Thank you, Vice Chair. I'd also like to note that in addition to moving the Uptown Bikeways item to the 13th agenda, we'll also be adding an item that is a proposed budget amendment for the regional tolling back office system projects on SR 125 and I-15. So that'll be added to the draft agenda. And for public comment on consent, we'll start with Truth and then go to Mark.
Item 2, the minutes reflect MIA Mario's absence, even though his baby, the OME toll, was on the agenda. I actually think Don should just take over. The attendance fails to note when Nora or Minto left the meeting. Nora was approximately 12:34 p.m. and Minto was about 12 p.m. Laura even asked me where he went, and then we enjoyed listening to Beekman's comments. Item 4, this item says that inflation is down. Another laugh from SANDAG. Item 5, I'm still going to say, which said inflation was down, and then item 5 says it's up. SANDAG lies and lies and lies and lies again. Item 6. Jose has been officially censured, so it's time to remove him from all SANDAG committees, boards, and events. His political theater performance at the last council meeting was enough hot gas to power SANDAG for an eternity. Everyone, please do not get an inflated ego just because you're in this temporary seat. You're not special. Anyone can be there. And Roy, on public transit, you don't have to be safe, sober, or alert, more inequity. And reminder, I have to say this is a public meeting room. Nothing said in here is private. If you don't like it, leave. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker will be Mark. Mark will be followed by the person online with the Samsung SM-A037U.
Mark, so regarding 3 and your policy of delegating authority, Curtis Yarvin, who's a globalist, by the way, so some of you might actually like him. Unfortunately, he also believes in monarchy, but he's very intelligent for being what I call a brilliant idiot. And he's got a video with him with Tucker Carlson, and he describes what happens when you hand authority over to experts, which basically they've done with climate. A good example is the viruses or climate. When you give somebody authority, they have a lot more power. They get grants, millions of dollars. People that would have been weathermen basically become some of the most important people in the country. It's a very dangerous position, and it corrupts them. It makes them, of course, they're going to want their position to be more important and get more money. Financial markets, you guys never talk about stopping inflation. I know that's not within your scope of authority, but if you don't, all that's going to happen with all your plans is the public's going to get poor, more homeless, more people out of their cars.
Your time has expired. Our next speaker will be Samsung SM-A037U, followed by the phone number ending in 672.
Can you hear me now?
We can, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so quick suggestion, instead of customer, how about saying tax-paying indentured servant? It's much more accurate. Mario mentioned a diligent manner of spending our money. Yeah, unfortunately, it's not an honest and transparent manner. And Crayons and Shoe, now you will have time to deprogram and detox all of the government toxicity you've been thickened for a while. Congrats for that. And Shoe, you are absolutely right. SANDAG and our county government does need to do better for the future generations, way better. But they're not, and they never will. We don't need a new government. We need an entirely new system that works for all, and it's coming. And anyone who is in support of this abusive system that we have currently is a fool deserving of all the system serves. It's time to quit supporting the nonsense. Government is just that, a bunch of nonsense. Wake up, board of directors.
Our next speaker will be the person with the phone number ending in 672. And as a reminder to the public, if you could please state which items on the consent agenda you're speaking on. Thank you. Speaker, you're currently self-muted. You can press *6 to unmute yourself. I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next speaker, and I will try to come back to you in just a moment. We'll move on to Catherine Rhodes. You can go ahead when you're ready.
Hello, this is Catherine Rhodes. Prior used to have the CEO report as, as its own agenda item, and now it seems like it's part of non-agenda public comment. And before I go to my issue, which I want to talk about, again, this is about the audit, and I still don't have any type of meeting. I'm just requesting a meeting with Mario and the legal counsel and the auditor so I could get my 20-year-old seismic issues taken care of. And now on to number 4. On page 20, it talks about the tax exempt bonds for the South Bay Expressway. And I mentioned before how, you have, 300 million you're supposed to get from the airport authority, and so far you have received 0 from the airport authority. If you actually got some money from the airport authority for your actual sequel project, which is the airport connectivity project, or get paid back at least at 36 million, that's some money that could go to this. Thank you.
I'm going to go back to phone number 672. You can go ahead when you're ready. It seems like we're having some technical difficulties. So if you'd like to go ahead and email your comments to clerk@sandag.org, I'll make sure that they are distributed to the members and also made part of today's meeting record. We'll move on to Blair Beekman, who will be followed by Paul the Bold.
Hi, Blair Beekman. Thanks for the meeting today. Believe it or not, I'm in Ho Chi Minh City, Vietnam today. It's been a long effort to get here, and I'm finally here. So hi to everyone. I wanted to offer, my Zoom went out at the previous public meeting, so thankfully I found a 24-hour cafe that I can be talking. Things may be a little loud, sorry about that. I wanted to offer for item 7, I think, no. Item 6.5, well, to go over the approval of meeting minutes. You had a great meeting, board of directors meeting last November about issues around border issues and how, I hope the World Capital Building Program, things went really well, and that we're really learning to work together and coalesce with Mexico on future goals. The executive committee meeting today was really interesting to have further discussion. You guys are talking here on this side. Let's hope we can really bring in the Mexico side, and let's do that well. Good luck. Thank you.
Our final speaker on this item will be Paul the Bold. You can go ahead.
The minutes, you leave out details of what the speakers said, just a list of names as if it's a roll call. For instance, it would be nice to include all the holiday travel announcements Mr. Cabrera made. The minutes then say the board voted to approve the balance of the consent agenda as amended to item 8. Does anyone here know what that actually means? You should have a link to or time of each agenda item. We do not have time to review the whole meeting tape to find these things out. And on the executive committee, La Mesa is not East County. You should know better. The overview of markets. Markets went up and down. State and feds are in bad shape. Don't count on getting all the money they promised. Look how long it's taking to fix the BWC plant. In view of the 2.4% inflation rate, the audit committee should review all contracts and audit.
Thank you. Your time has expired. That concludes the public commenters.
Very good. Thank you. Are there any member comments on the consent agenda? Or may I have a motion in a second, please?
So moved.
Okay.
A second.
Okay, I've got a motion by Chavez, second by Shu. Please use your clickers to vote.
That motion does pass unanimously with those members present.
Very good. All right, we're going to move on to the CEO performance goals and objectives now. At our last meeting, Chair Vargas outlined the CEO evaluation subcommittee's timeline to assess CEO performance. And today, Mario will be presenting his draft goals for board review. I'll now turn it over to Mario.
In the goal today is to have a discussion with the board on what would be those goals, the priorities. When I was here presenting 3 months ago, I highlighted 3 themes: oversight and transparency, leadership and structures, and focus on the fundamentals. And we could go and dive into deliverables. I think where we wanted today was to generate a discussion with the board members on what will be some measurable goals. We have, a good discussion was on the last board meeting on the legal counsel to the board, getting to resolution on that. That will be a good measurable. Getting to have the workshop with the board on the board's policies and getting guidance from the board so we can start developing those board policies and have them for your consideration and approval. That's another measurable goal. The delegated authorities discussion. We need to have that discussion so the board gets comfortable with whatever delegated authorities you're giving us to staff. Having that discussion, bringing it, that's a deliverable, bring it to the board, getting resolution on that. Setting up an engagement strategy with the upcoming federal administration, as well as, like I said, the new assembly in the state. Those are just some examples, on the focus on the fundamentals, the dashboard, so you could all track the project's status reports. That's a deliverable. Having the dashboard for accountability on all the OIPA and audit committees and different groups that have provided audits to us, having that tracking, having it in a dashboard so you could track us of how we're doing in achieving those ones. Those accountability systems like the ERP also. There are multiple achievables that could be for the internal controls, the outreach, the data governance, discussion and results of what we would have, how we're going to interconnect all our data systems. And that's one of the points also from the grand jury report. That's another deliverable. So I wanted to get some input from the board on what do you see as those measurables. I just gave you a couple of examples of what we can come in and present. But to me, it's very valuable to hear from the board of what are your priorities, what are those measurables that you would like to see for us to achieve in this coming year. And I open it to discussion.
Very good. Well, before discussion, so you've queued up, but what you want from us is, in these broad categories, there's the goals and then the objectives, some real specifics that can be measurable that we'll be able to then produce your evaluation saying this, that, the other, okay? So
yes, and I will have to highlight that this first year, it has to be, the agency is moving forward into a reorganization, but also in developing those guardrails that would allow us to not move from one way to another and keep us working on our lane, right? On what we need to be focused in a transparent way, but also providing always that information so you, the board, and the public can check where we are with the different deliverables.
okay, that sounds good. So as we listen to the public, let's start taking some notes on what we want to see for our discussion later. So Francesca, do we have public comments, please?
Thank you. We'll start with Truth and then go to Mark.
That was only about 5 minutes, pretty good. First, at the meeting that Mario wasn't absent for, I noticed he was writing a ton, so what's the book called? Second, because of the absence at a critical meeting and because the goals were not publicly provided at the meetings last month, I'm going to give an F+. This item says position agency with DC and Mexico City. Does that mean SANDAG is happy to work with the trumpeter or communist Claudia? The part about a culture, fiscal oversight, and management, good luck. The part about opportunities for the public to participate, are all the opportunities limited to 60 seconds of representation or just where our reps' concerns get run over by the chair? And I'm not talking about Lisa. I'm still waiting for a public evaluation tool for a taxpayer-funded job at up to $484,000 a year or more. Where's the publicly available chart that lets people know a tiered pay scale based on behaviors, ethics, and actions? Because let's be real, Mario should have gotten a cut when information leaked, and then especially after orders were given before the position even started. If all of you continue to not hold every CEO accountable, the SANDAG spin cycle will be on repeat with more dirty laundry. All holiday spirit here is what I'm giving. Thank you.
Our next speaker will be Mark, and Mark will be followed by Paul the Bold.
Mark, so it says right here on your sheet for 7, core mandates. A core mandate, that's totalitarian government. And Rosa Corey talks about this. There is no possibility of dissent here. The people have no idea what you're doing. Even the people who believe in your cause of climate change and everything that's being used as an excuse for totalitarian government, they thought that and think that you're going to give them electric or different transportation, different energy at a really cheap, affordable cost and change the world and make it better for everyone. And that's simply a lie. In reality, you're going to get people out of their cars. They don't know that. If they knew that you were openly saying that you're financially forcing them out of their cars and not stopping inflation and the corruption, they would never, ever go along with any of this. And about the bikeways, 16 seconds. Of course, it would be a good thing, but you're going to spend way too much on it. Way too many people use it. And again, they don't know that you want to get them out of their cars. If you were transparent like this says and told people, they would say no in 1 second.
Our next speaker will be Paul Bold, followed by Catherine Rhodes.
Hello? I don't think that you should have someone like Nora in charge of judging other people. She called herself Mayor of Bonita, the unincorporated area, lies about the air in her district being safe, and even made up a phony excuse about her running out on a supervisor's meeting. So no phonies or people who fudge the numbers. What we need are both measurable and actual facts. Maybe bring back Tony Krantz or Jack Shue. Both have made numerous balanced suggestions. A good going away present, Al Smith, your legal counsel, might also be better suited to judging someone else in an impartial and even-handed manner. As for performance goals, I would like a CEO who can get through his or her report in the time we have to speak, maybe a bit longer. But as I said, we need both measurable and actual facts.
Thank you. Your time expired. Our next speaker is Catherine Rhodes. You can go ahead.
Wonderful. This is Catherine Rhodes. I was going to say, fundamentals, before you build anything, you actually have to do, your EIR, you have to do CEQA. And you guys have failed to do that so many times, specifically now your CEO that I've been trying for months to get a meeting with, and he won't even call me back to set up a meeting. I mean, they actually literally told me it's on his list of things to do, and he'll be calling me back that afternoon. Never happened. So anyway, last month or the month before, on consent without due diligence, the CEO put in offers for 2 parcels for SANDAG's headquarters and bus stopover maintenance facility, where there's a presumed active fault going through it without doing due diligence of actually doing a fault investigation. This is leadership. This is structure. This is fundamentals that are not being followed. They're still not being followed. I thought there would be a change. It's the same old, same old. Nothing changes here at SANDAG.
Thank you. Your time expired. Our next speaker is Samsung SM8037U, followed by a person with the phone number ending in 672. You're self-muted at the moment. You can start your comments whenever you're ready.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Sure. Okay, so I wanted to start off by saying, amen to all the previous speakers. First, wanted to thank Blair B for his commitment and always calling in from wherever he's at on the planet. And that's true concern and commitment, by the way. The mayor of Bonita should not be running the SANDAG circus. SANDAG cannot even run the basic fundamentals of the county. The leadership is a joke. And by the way, before I forget, I wanted to congratulate Luz Molina on her city council input regarding that weasel and clown piece of work, Rodriguez. Good on you for standing up to him, standing your ground. I wish you did that with Vargas and her corrupt conflicts of interest behind. Please, all of you should. That's all I
Our next speaker will be phone number 672. You can go ahead. You're self-muted at the moment. You can, oh, I'm sorry, that person dropped off. We'll go ahead and go to Blair Beekman, who will be our final speaker on this item.
Hi, Blair Beekman. Thanks for the words from previous speaker. Yeah, it's 2:02 a.m. right now, December 7th in Ho Chi Minh City. So it is nice to be here. It's nice to be a part of the process. Thanks for Zoom. Thanks for continuing Zoom. It helps a good public process. I wanted to be thankful for you have some goals set up for leadership and structure, oversight and transparency, focus on fundamentals in the future of SANDAG for 2025. Thank you. I think that's a great list. The problems you've had in the past 2 years, you want to make good on them. Thank you. Catherine Rhodes, I think, offered a way that to really hold you guys accountable to those practices. Thank you. I can give good broad strokes to the ideas of the importance of accountability, how tech accountability, its good practices can really lend you guys a hand in how to help develop a more open, accountable process. It's really good stuff. Good luck in what you can do. And thank you.
That concludes the public comments on this item.
2 in the morning, huh? That's dedication to come give us public comment. Thank you, Blair. All right, so let's move on to any member comments. I see nobody on the board. The board isn't working, perhaps? It's not up. Yeah, there's no, it's, oh, here we go. Okay, there we go. Mayor Jones, you're first.
I was thinking I pushed that so long ago. On page 39, where it says the focus on the fundamentals, objectives, deliver the board approved work program. I agree with that. And then including the Transnet program. And I think that should say program deliverables specifically, because I think it's a little more not too broad, and it actually hones in on one of the things that many of us have actually talked about for such a very long time, and that is actual things that we promised the voters. So being able to have the deliverables and where we're at on that would be, I think, extremely important. And anyway, those are my comments.
Thank you. Councilmember Burkholder.
Thank you. Appreciate that, Vice Chair. Yeah, to a little bit piggyback on what the mayor of San Marcos said, I do agree with focus on the fundamentals. In fact, I don't know if you have a copy of the original Transnet ordinance, but I do, and I'm happy to share that with you. And I'm not being facetious at all, because I think it's very important that we look back and see that I-578 interchange that was there 35, 40 years ago now. But the only, I appreciate this piece of work, Mr. Orso, but the only other thing that I think I would add to this is what I call agenda management. So basically our time management here. When I come from Carlsbad, I leave at 8. When I leave here at 2, I don't get home until 3. So that's quite a long day. And I love you guys, but I think we can do a better job at managing the agenda. And I'd appreciate a little focus on that. Thanks.
Deputy Mayor Gasterlin. Oh, you?
Yeah.
Okay.
So thank you. First, I want to say I really like this 3-way breakdown of what to focus on and how to effectively restructure and rebuild. And I'm looking at this and realizing that at the university, we could use this structure, and you can replace public with students and really think about how to use this. So I wanted to put that out there, that at a general level, this is really nice. Thank you. I would like to see us focusing on deliverables, and where we know what deliverables on what dates are intended over time. And so that people who want to ask, what is SANDAG doing and when are these projects going to be done? When they say, well, 90% of SANDAG's work is planning. Well, yes, 90% is planning, but that planning has an endpoint. So really action-oriented and deliverable-oriented. I think if that becomes a driving way to organize communicating, that will help people understand what it is that SANDAG delivers.
Thank you. Councilmember Chavez.
Thank you so much, and I appreciate this information. I think given all the experiences with the 125 over the past year, transparency makes sense as one of our very first priority, followed right by continued updates. I really do appreciate the continued updates about progress, about the challenges, and implementation of large projects in the region. So I thank you, and I think I wanted to mention that.
Thank you. Councilmember Shu.
Thank you, Chair. So I'm making some comments to Mario, but I'm glad all of you are here to hear them because I think ultimately you'll have to make these changes too. We had talked about in our meetings about institutional change, and I think that's another item that I think you are addressing, and for a variety of reasons. So I would add that into our list. Board members, elected officials live for the next news cycle. So this year or these months, we're dealing with Del Mar. We're dealing with the airport. We're dealing with 125. But your charge, is much larger than that. It's for the regional plan. It's for things that are coming next 10, 20, 30 years from now. And that's what SANDAG has charged for this region. And I hope you can convey that to the board in some way, the importance of that kind of planning. It's like planting the tree that won't be giving you fruit for another 30 years. We can't plant the wrong kind of tree. We have done so for decades, and that's why we're in the dilemma we're in today. People propose, Senator Jim Mills proposed fixing the Lausanne corridor 20, 30 years ago. This board ignored it. And now we're in kind of a crisis as we go forward, and the cost has gone up. So I think in part, you have that obligation to not only this board, but to the community and the next generations to convey that kind of thinking. And to that point, Mario, thank you for giving me an advance copy of the letter that the 4 MPOs wrote to CARB, asking for a pause in the implementation of SB 375. To me, that is more important than all the things we're talking about today, whether it's the audit, whether it's the 125 toll road, because this is the big thinking picture of how do we plan the next regional transportation plan. What elements do we put in? Do we conform with a state mandate, which is sustainability, which CARB is holding over all the MPOs? And the history of that some time ago, for the last time SB 375 was going to set greenhouse reduction goals, some would say collaboration, others will say a conspiracy of the 4 MPOs to keep it at 17%, and we ended up with 19% reduction. It has been said by others in the environmental field, actually a quote from Judge Taylor that ruled against SANDAG's regional transportation plan 10 years ago, that SANDAG kicks the can down the road with regards to meeting the goals of 375 and greenhouse gas reduction. SANDAG kicks the can down the road. Now the fear is SANDAG and MPOs are conspiring to kick the can off the road. To me, that needs to be known to this body and to the public, because that letter, in some ways, I think, conflicts with board policy with regards to reducing health impacts, conflicts with board policy with regards to equity. So my question to you, and I don't mean to be attacking you by any means, Mario. How did you join on with the other three NPOs when that letter in many ways conflicts with board policy that has been set in the last 3 years?
Thank you for the question. We had a meeting, what's called the Big Four NPOs, with all the state agencies, including Air Resources Board. And even Air Resources Board acknowledged that as this has been implemented now for several years, there's a lot of room for improvement. And they encouraged us to document to them that there was an opportunity to work together on how would the goals or would be set up. So that's basically, by no means is it to derail the process. It was to work in a collaborative way with Air Resources Board and also California Transportation Commission, the Housing Department, the Department of Transportation. I'm trying to remember all the ones that were involved, of how we can work collaboratively in setting up the new goals in a way that they're achievable and can still help us to provide a better environment for our community. So by no means was that trying to derail it. It's actually constructed feedback that actually ARB encouraged. They since told us that they will probably not pause. In the pause that we were saying is, don't go ahead very far in developing new goals. If we're talking about potential methodologies, modeling, or whatever, that may have to go and be reinvented. I hope that answers the question.
It does, and my advice is as you go forward, that as those kinds of things are happening, that in some way you put it up front back in September before that letter came out to inform not only this board, but the public of what SANDAG is doing. The environmental community got that letter months after it was actually written. And so I think the environmental community feels very excited that the NPOs essentially did this move without full knowledge. And for that matter, much of the public not knowing what's really happening. I'll just make this last comment. The city of La Mesa, not to toot my own horn, but we have a climate action plan that looks at the goals that the state has set, SB 32, and essentially we're going to exceed that for 2035. It's doable. We have a plan to get there. This body had a regional transportation plan before it was amended to get 21% VMT reduction by 2035. It's doable. We can get to 25% reduction by 2035. It's going to be hard, but it's going to be more difficult if we delay it. And that's why I think kicking the can off the road is something that we do so knowingly. Otherwise, the people that come after us are not going to be very happy. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack. Councilmember Molina.
Thank you very much, Vice Chair. Mario, thank you for this opportunity to make suggestions to you about what we would like to see as part of your objectives. I do understand these three goals and are big picture, big chunks of what it means to be an executive director. But one piece that is in here, but I want to have it fully defined, is the enhancing our staff and a focus on internally the relationships within staff members and each other, and the structure, the hierarchy between the directors and their staff members underneath. We rely on our staff members to bring the best of themselves forward, and they need to be in an environment where they can do that. And I would like to have a focus on employee morale and building trust within, so that then we can have, we can build on that foundation. So for me, a focus on staff and providing the best environment for them to bring their best foot forward is what I would like to see in the coming year. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Maxon.
Thank you. Good morning.
these are great to have specific deliverables because you need to ensure that your associates, your employees can succeed. What does it look like when they succeed? Having seen the CEOs of the past, my concern is when deliverables or expectations are not met. In other words, when performance is not at the level that we need the CEO's level to be at. What is the will of this board? What is the process for the board to move on a lack of performance? Because I'm not expecting that from Mr. Orso, but if that were to occur, at what point, what level of lack of performance is that brought to the board for consideration, discussion, and perhaps corrective action? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mayor Vasquez.
Thank you so very much. And I appreciate being able to see these goals and the objectives. I think one thing that is so very important is to recognize that we all have a different thought process. And because of that, it's important to have metrics, metrics that are measurable so that we are all on the same page when we're looking at the success of the CEO. Without having those metrics, everyone's interpretation of success is different. And so if somehow you could create a column to carve out what success looks like based on the goals and based on the objectives, then when it comes time to do an evaluation, then the evaluation is built on a strong foundation that everyone can recognize and agree upon. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor-elect Duncan.
Thank you. I think the objectives are great. Obviously, the devil's in the details of getting them done. You know, many of these are things that we see in independent auditor reports, we see in reports from the grand jury, et cetera. So in any event, my only just brief question for you was when you were having your preliminary comments, you mentioned potentially the relationship of the board and legal counsel, but you meant that for a discussion for another day to finalize how we're going to have the legal structure and.
Yes.
Or did you mean for now?
No.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
But it could be one of the objectives that we can put in as one of those measurables that we can keep facilitating that discussion for the board to get to a conclusion there.
Yes, sir. I think in the first one, to develop organizational structure to align with core mandates and the board's vision, that potentially in there is where that is already covered, but spelling it out, I think, and talking about measurable goals, as was just mentioned, I think having, finalizing the relationship of the board with legal counsel and the just overall SANDAG general counsel situation is a goal that we should achieve shortly. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'd like to add to that the consideration of separate counsel for the audit committee and what we'll do about with the PACs as well. And I've had a couple of other things that I thought about. I think one of the things that is important is a discussion on the priorities of our projects based on the funding that we have or are going to have. We really kind of need to get that picture so that we know what's real, what to expect. So while we have deliverables, as Deputy Mayor Gaslin was talking about, and by whens, that those are realistic so that they're not pie in the sky and we can never get there. The grand jury report referenced the corrective action report or CAR. It's very long, so maybe there's a percentage of that gets done, something like that. And then in terms of our basics, we have to produce an RTP coming up next year, so that has to be in there. And then another basic is the RENA issue, and we have started on initiating the discussion with HCD on RENA reform for not just the 7th cycle, but even looking back at the 6th cycle. So I think that's super important to all of us so that we can make sure that we're actually delivering affordable housing and not just a bunch of luxury units and demolishing the affordable housing that we do have in our own place, our own cities. I really like the idea of agenda management in terms of the timeline. And I don't know if anybody else is going to like this idea or if it's really feasible, but do we need 3 meetings a month? If this next year when we've got so many meaty things to do. Otherwise, we're going to be continuing to get into the afternoon on every single one of these meetings. So that's something to consider as well. That's all I have. This was just a discussion item.
May I make one comment?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you. One thing I wanted to just mention as a concept to consider would be the chair, the CEO, et cetera, and the board, I guess is probably the better way to say it, taking a look at our policy advisory committees and the structure, effectiveness, and the missions of them. Because some I don't really know what they do or why they exist. But I'm not saying that derogatorily. I think there's always room for improvement. We recently just did that at our city, and look, they evolved over 30 years, 40, and they needed to be refined to be more useful to the mission.
And Mayor Jones.
Thank you, Chair. I personally would like for us to talk about that whole timing issue, because I personally would prefer to have more meetings and have a certainty of okay, we're going to be done at 12 o'clock and we can push something to the next meeting. The problem is, I think for many of us is, even though I work full-time and more than full-time, I'm considered part-time. So I have other things that I actually have to get done sometimes, in meetings that I have to take in the afternoon. I'm not here, I try to say, okay, 2 o'clock, I'm going to be done by 2 o'clock. Being that our meeting actually is supposed to go to noon, I think that's a little bit long. So I think just for all of us, for certainty, I think consideration of having another meeting month would be advisable, and maybe even starting at 8 o'clock. I know some people might not like that, but I'm just saying, like, I'm throwing out some ideas that we should discuss as a board, but I just wanted to throw that out. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Minto.
Yeah, John brings up a really good point about policy advisory committees. And I think most of those policy advisory committees were neutered over the last 4 or 5 years. They used to be very vibrant. They would vet and talk about things that would come before this board and pretty much be able to get things lined up before we ever got here, so that recommendations by the committee chairs could be given. Well, I'm on public safety. We meet once every other month now, I think, or, something like that. And you know what, if something comes up, you're out of town, you can't make one. That means it's 4 months before you get in on another meeting. There's no reason why you shouldn't have a meeting every month. Everybody knows what day it is, what time it is, and we should be looking at that again and actually bringing things of substance to every single one of those committees. It's like the Borders Committee. I mean, you change that, I think, because we couldn't get out of here early enough for them to have their board meeting, a committee meeting. Things like that have to really be looked at. And I agree. We need to start earlier. We always started earlier before. I get it, Lisa. That might sound terrible when you're driving as far as you're doing, but I hate to say it, but if there's only 1 or 2 people out of 19 or 20 that want to start earlier, then that's what we should do. But I think that's something that you should look into, Mario, and even talk to maybe some of the individual members, and because I think that's the way it should be. Because I don't remember us, we never used to get out of here after noon, very seldom ever. So just good points.
Just so you know, we are preparing an assessments of the packs, descriptions and all that, so we can come to you all and have a discussion about that, as well as the working group. So that's already also in motion.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Wells.
Hi, thank you. I just want to say I agree with your comment that 3 or 4 meetings a month would make sense to me. And I agree with Mayor Mento's comment that I would like to start earlier.
Supervisor Anderson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I serve on borders. I serve on transportation. I serve on a lot of them. And when the meeting goes long, sometimes those meetings get canceled. I think that we'd have better participation if we were time certain. So I would like to start earlier. Plus, if we start earlier, then my traffic is reduced significantly. So if we started You know, if I left 15 minutes earlier, I'd be here an hour earlier. So that would be very helpful to me. But I think it's I think 2 or 3 times last year, I came down here and the meeting went to 2 o'clock. Borders got canceled, and my whole day was tied up for a meeting that never occurred. So then I have to think, well, do I want to go to the meeting, or are we going to have quorum? I'm never going to come to another meeting that I have spent my day down here not to meet. So we need to be more professional. And one of the things that we could do is we can move all the voting items to the front of the agenda and all the discussion items to the end of the agenda. And if we run out of time, roll over the discussion item. That way, nobody missed out on the vote, but we could finish time certain so that the other committees have a chance to meet. Because now, many times I have 3 meetings on the same Friday with y'all. I love spending my whole day here. Great food. But not everybody's on that. Some of them are only on a subcommittee. So they have driven down here, been turned away, sent home after they waited a half an hour. And that's not right or fair.
Yeah. And I just want to reiterate what Mayor Minto said too about the PACs used to be used a lot more, where they did the heavy lifting. And then when we got to the board, we knew it had been vetted, and they were very, there were a few questions, of course, but the chair was always here to be able to describe that discussion and continue it if necessary. But so, yeah, we've got this work ongoing, and let's wrap this one up because I think we're on time at this stage to get out of here around 1:30. So let's keep moving. All right. So we're going to move now on to the revised position classification and salary range table. Josh.
And just to present Josh, our HR director, here what we are coming is to repurpose 3 classifications based on all what we're looking into, focusing on the delivery. We didn't have classifications for having management, certain type of management in the delivery team. The other classification is the internal controls person. I want to highlight something. We are repurposing positions. We are not creating positions. We are just repurposing existing positions to these classifications. We cannot hire a deputy director of engineering construction because the description does not exist in the descriptions. That's why we're doing that. We can't hire an internal controls director because we don't have that description there. So I'll let Josh take it from here.
Good morning. My name is Joshua Golter, and I serve as SANDAG's Director of Human Resources. To reiterate what Mario said, last September, Mario presented his strategic vision to you, outlining a roadmap for the agency's future. To support this effort, staff have defined 3 new classifications, and today we are seeking the board's approval to incorporate these into the FY 2025 position classification and salary range table, as shown in attachment 2 on page 43 of your agenda packet. I want to reemphasize that while these classifications represent new types of roles, no new positions are being requested, and existing vacant positions will be repurposed to achieve the staffing plan. Overall, the impact is cost neutral. The funding for any staff changes will be derived from the strategic repurposing of existing resources already approved in the FY 2025 budget. A brief description of these roles can be found in attachment 1 on page 42 of your packet. We will also be coming back to you in January to recommend a small number of additional updates. I appreciate your time and consideration of this item, and I'm happy to address any questions you may have.
And so I mentioned 2 of them. The other 3rd one is a person who will be managing and in charge of IT projects, ITS projects like back office, somebody who's an expert on that and could be accountable for that. So those are the three classifications: engineering and construction deputy director, the internal controller, and I can't remember the description, Josh, but it's the intelligent transportation systems person in charge for that.
Okay, very good. Francesca, let's go to public comments, please.
Thank you. Our first speaker will be Truth, followed by Mark.
continuing the SANDAG superfluous spending discussion, I'd like to see some staff jobs cut. If the nonsense here continues, I'm going to start naming names.
Test me on that.
I got 3 names, one added today. The areas of project management have proven the most corrupt. Will the Director of Internal Controls oversee the project managers? A Director of Strategic Tech, I hope it's better than SANDAG's previous Cord Games. Based on past SANDAG performance, so I'm expecting all the managed toll lanes and the OME toll to fail, and that actually brings me much comfort. The up to $269,000 independent performance auditor is on the list, but why not the independent legal counsel? Legal counsel costs up to $201,000 each, so how many are there? And does SANDAG really need that many lawyers? Why can't there just be an independent counsel and then save money and get rid of the rest of them? Yes, I'm saying cut SANDAG jobs. I'm happy to provide a detailed backup plan for all those former employees on a new pathway. However, I only have 60 seconds to address major issues, so I can't. And lastly, I appreciate everyone's great ideas that you had. Thank you.
Our next speaker will be Mark, followed by Samsung SMA037U.
Mark, most of the people on this list don't make a whole lot of money. But I mean, compared to the people with 100 or 200 billion dollars that you guys are really working for, whether you know it or not. But Mario making 484,453. Mario, I think you're just a total shill for the UN and the WEF, and that our taxpayer dollars are being spent so you can do this is absolutely disgusting. It shouldn't be. It's really sad that most people are working really hard for their money to make a tenth of this. And the fact that a lot of you guys, and I don't blame all of you here. Some of you are, you tried hard to get in your positions, but you're not standing up against the totalitarian government and where it's going at all. And you should, whether risk your career or not. Anyway, this shouldn't be. Too many people making too much money selling us out.
Our next speaker will be the Samsung user, followed by phone number 672. Samsung, you can go ahead when you're ready.
Okay, I'm sorry. I just getting a little confused here. This Zoom thing is not very convenient for me on this device. Anyways, okay, so let's see. I don't even know where we're at, but you know what? It's okay. Mayor re-elect Kranz mentioned and said, what really does SANDAG do? Or the people would say, what really does SANDAG do? And why does SANDAG really exist? What else? And it's very cute listening to board members complaining about timing of these meetings, because it's very sad that as it is, the public doesn't even chime in. Imagine them, starting earlier just to, convenience the people who are supposed to be representing the other people and informing them about what goes on in these, whatever they are, propaganda, warm handoffs. Let's see, what else did I write? Oh yeah, Jim, that's the most.
Thank you. Your time has expired. We'll go next to the person with the phone number ending in 672. You can go ahead. Please press *6 to unmute yourself. All right, I think we're still having some technical difficulties.
Yes, I would just like to say amen to everything that Mark just mentioned. Many shills in the house.
All right, I will go on next to Paul the Bold, followed by Blair Beekman.
The mid-year changes. It's December. Looks like a huge red flag before you've even begun. You want to add Director of Strategic Tech Implementation and the Director of Internal Controls. The proposed salaries for these positions are 143 to 221,000 and 173 to 269,000. The attachment, however, says placement within the salary range is based on similar roles within the agency. The infotech manager is what the new position sounds like. Salary is 129 to 201K. So what justifies the extra 58 to 88,000 per year? And needing a deputy director of engineering and construction makes me wonder whether too many things you built are suddenly failing, like SR-78 and the January storm. You could use extra tech and management help.
Thank you. Your time expired. Our next speaker is Blair Beekman, who will be followed by Catherine Rhodes.
Hi, Blair Beekman. Thanks a lot for this item and the explanations of how this item can work. It was nice to hear. I'm interested how we're rearranging, SANDAG rearranging itself right now, public process of rearranging itself. I think you guys are noting an idea, maybe a little strong here, but I hope a reminder. Some in SANDAG, I think we're trying to possibly work on the idea of how to consolidate and continue SANDAG, with not so much emphasis on the city of San Diego and learning to spread ideas and thought processes to the other cities of SANDAG who are participating in the SANDAG process. I think that's an important reminder as we get upset at SANDAG, how to, I don't know, balance the future of leadership and ideas and how to form ideas. Good luck in that process. I thought I'd just mention it here. I know you're working on it. Thanks.
Our final speaker will be Catherine Rhodes. You can go ahead.
Hello, this is Catherine Rhodes, and I was just looking at pages 47 and 48, and it does seem that the salary ranges are pretty high. But the thing is that we don't know how much you increased them. How much were they increased? Can somebody please ask that question? You know, for example, it says the maximum for the CEO is $484,000. So how much was it before? We don't know. So, you know, just giving these numbers of these salary ranges without giving us, you know, what the original one is, doesn't really give us any information. And so please ask somebody please ask, what's the percentage that they increase these by? Thank you.
That concludes the public comments.
All right, member comments, Councilmember Shu.
Thank you. When I originally read about this item, I thought, gee, why isn't it on consent calendar? Because I think all organizations need to make adjustments, particularly with all the employee positions we have at SANDAG. And to me, this was just a move to make us move into the times and the positions and structure that SANDAG currently needs. So I'm going to move approval for this item per staff recommendation.
Very good. Councilmember Moreno, you're up. Would you like to second that motion? Oh,
I second.
oh, I have Sandy B up here.
I'm sorry.
Oh, you seconded it?
Sure, I'm happy to second.
Thank you. And you have some comments?
I'm happy to see this report. I think it is important to take care of our staff. Thank you.
Very good. All right, seeing nobody else up, right? Nobody else is up. All right, let's vote.
I had one question.
Oh, okay, now everybody's up. Yeah, okay.
Oh, I was sending.
Oh, that's what it is. Okay.
I have a small question. In attachment 2 on the last page, there are footnotes, and 3 of the titles are in bold. I was wondering, what's the point of the bold?
The bolding is where we've added the new titles into the salary range
Okay.
table. Everything else remains the same.
Thank you.
Okay, so there were a bunch of names up here. Now they disappeared, right? So now we're just going to vote. Okay, all right.
That motion passes unanimously with those members present.
Okay, very good. We're going to take a very short 5-minute break. So stand up, stretch, use the restroom, but we'll be back in 5 minutes. Okay, everybody, let's everybody start moving back to your seats. Okay, can everybody please start moving back to your seats? Let's get this show back on the road.
Now you gotta herd all the cats back.
I know. Work any better? Okay, everybody, please take your seats. That's the one challenge with taking a break mid-meeting, right? Is getting everybody back. Well, I have nobody to turn it over to today, so that was the reason. All right, so we are now on to the, where am I on here? Okay, we're now into the airport transit connection update. Marissa, please go ahead.
Thanks a lot. I'm not sure if Mario is going to make some opening remarks.
Oh, sorry.
I don't want to cut him off.
Mario, please go ahead.
No,
You're
sorry.
Robert
Thank you,
today.
Marissa. Well, pretty much, this was presented to Transportation Committee. It was very robust conversation. But I think what's important to highlight, kind of similar up to a point than the BA for Lausanne, this airport transit connection, it's a planning study that's looking at what will be some of the feasible ideas that can be carried into a notice of preparation and an environmental document. So this is just the beginning of the conversation, and the team is going to be presenting those details and what they're coming up with, both from a long-term and a short-term potential solution. So, but in order to make this a reality, this will have to have an environmental document. So those will be alternatives. So right now, this is what's going to be that kind of short listing of what can potentially be achievable is what is going to be presented to you.
Thanks a lot. I'll get started. I'm Marissa, a mobility planner here at SANDAG, here to provide an update on our airport transit connection project, which we fondly refer to around here as ATC. I'll share some brief project context while relaying our planning progress to date and what's in store for next year. Earlier this year, staff provided an update to the SANDAG board to announce the project was moving into our regional planning department and that it would be evaluated as a standalone transit project that was no longer dependent on a new central mobility hub. Additional analysis is taking into consideration post-pandemic travel data and the need to make refinements to some of the ATC concepts developed to date. These are important reasons to bring it into planning and before we proceed with the environmental clearance of a preferred concept. Some might say we're truly blessed to have such a high quality airport right here in our urban core near all sorts of unique amenities, but it's a complex and highly constrained area, but it makes planning for a new transit link all that much more fun yet challenging. With the Central Mobility Hub no longer a current consideration, our priority is connecting the airport to the regional transit network. Existing, very heavily used rail transit hubs like Old Town Transit Center and Santa Fe Depot are potential key connection points for the ATC. However, we also need to ensure that rail and bus services connecting to these major hubs are both frequent and reliable, so they may support an airport transit connection and greater regional transit connectivity. It's only going to be as strong as all of those services connecting to those areas. In the last several years, various modes have been identified for the ATC, and each has a mix of opportunities and challenges. Hear me out when I say there's really no silver bullet mode when it comes to this project. Each of them have their pros and cons, and I'll review a handful of them today, and we'll look at some a little closer on the map so you get an idea of what they're all about and what we've put together to date as an agency for each of them. First is automated people mover, or APM. This kind of mode is commonly used at airports to connect between terminals, and some of them may also have a link to their transit system, like in Oakland or Phoenix or San Francisco. They require exclusive rights of way and could be built elevated, as you see here on the slide on the image on the left, or underground. And it can help with reducing conflicts with traffic on the street, but it requires an investment into a larger new maintenance and storage facility. So this is a 2 to 3 acre type of facility that we would still need to plan for and build. And it's really tough in our urban core to make space for that. So it's a consideration. And at the moment, there's no identified operator that we would have yet for this type of service, since it's different from our other heavy and light rail options. But it could provide some benefit in providing some very frequent service to and from airport. Next is a light rail trolley extension, and that would be a new spur, a new trolley spur between downtown and the airport. Today, some of the challenges we may see with the trolley are the operations on street and having to have vehicles wait for more frequent trolleys as they become more frequent, having those railroad arms come down, and there's some conflicts with traffic and the trolley operations. We need to try to make sure trolley operations are more efficient and can be faster for riders going through the streets. But there's some benefits definitely with the light rail extension, which is if we have a spur between downtown and the airport, it could double as a transit service and be more seamlessly integrated into our existing rail options and provide the potential to extend light rail to other destinations, depending on what our regional plan states. And last but certainly not least is enhanced bus service. These are rubber tire solutions that could connect between Santa Fe Depot and Old Town, for example, but they're only going to be more successful if they have transit priority, such as transit lane signaling improvements, in order for them to really battle that traffic that we see all the time on North Harbor Drive and occasionally on Pacific Highway. So it's another option, lower cost, flexible, and something we'll talk about in a moment regarding a potential interim solution before a potential more expensive option or rail option could be considered. I'd be remiss if I didn't remind folks what our current cost estimates are for the various modes, just so you have them in mind, although we're in the process of updating them. So in 2022 dollars for automated people mover, it ranges greatly between $2 billion and $6 billion, depending on if you were to build it as an aerial option, bored tunnel, or a hybrid of the two. For the light rail trolley extension, it would be between $1.1 and $1.7 billion, but that doesn't include a trench feature that I'll talk about in a moment. And then enhanced bus service is pegged at between 46 and 70 million, so definitely under $100 million if you were to think about some priority treatments to have buses running to and from. So next we'll show you some mapping of the various automated people mover concepts and also trolley and bus. Want to make it clear that we've identified and put in a lot of work here at the agency over the last several years to come up with 5 people mover concepts that are comprised of 13 different variations. The variations come into play because of the fact that we have to account for various infrastructure types and options, elevated rail, bored tunnel, or a mix of them. I want to make it clear we've done a lot of work. These are not just concepts of a plan, but have really been fleshed out at a certain level to really identify the challenges and constraints regarding all of them. And we're leveraging the work from the previous team to carry us through and help us as we pare down the number of people mover concepts before we entertain one or more of them as part of the environmental review process. So as you can see on the map, all of them, of course, serve the airport. Many of them serve the Middletown trolley station as the lines curve around to the backside of the airport. It's dubbed the Port Transit Center on this map, and also serve the rental car center. And then there's some other connections that are possible, like going up to Old Town Transit Center or coming down to downtown in order to serve Santa Fe Depot or the Convention Center or our Civic Core. This is the map with the trolley connection that's envisioned, and it's envisioned that trolley service would connect to the airport from our 12th and Imperial transit station. The solid line on the map represents the existing trolley concept that we've come up with to date, and what we're doing at the moment is carrying out some operational modeling in order to demonstrate or prove, can we have that trolley concept achieve better than 15-minute frequencies? If so, that's going to be kind of a game changer in terms of being more competitive with more frequent people mover options. So it's looking encouraging, but we're still conducting that operational modeling to determine if longer dwell times or incidents, things that happen, would it potentially interrupt trolley service, and can we get to a better frequency? We've added a new trolley concept variation called 6B, which is represented by the dashed line on the map. Follows the same route as the trolley. The only difference is we would add in a new trench element. And I'll show some photos in a moment, but the trench in downtown would allow the trolley to be lowered under the ground for a longer period of time. It is lowered underneath a couple of streets in downtown in Little Italy today, and we would be proposing to extend that trench further so the trolley could benefit from being underneath the roads and away from traffic, especially as we're to think about how our trolley lines in the future are all running at potentially 7.5-minute frequencies. That's a lot of vehicles coming through and around downtown, and we want to ensure that trolley has priority and also not be so much of a detriment to the traffic needing to get in and around the area. So some images to highlight what we mean. This is an existing aerial view of heavy rail and light rail tracks in North Little Italy near Hawthorne Street. And you can see the red lines are underneath the road. That's an existing trench that exists today, and it really helps the trolley reduce the trolley's conflict or overlap with the traffic there, because Hawthorne westbound towards the waterfront is very heavily used by cars. And a few blocks south is Ash Street, where the trolley has already come up back on street at grade before heading into Santa Fe Depot. And so with a new trench extension suggestion, we would want to mimic the condition that we see at Hawthorne Street in order for Ash, Beach, Cedar, all of those streets to benefit the same way that Grape and Hawthorne do further up. With our enhanced bus opportunities, we have it at the moment as one of our 3 modes for ATC, but we also are exploring options to enhance the bus nearer term, so that, for example, by the time the Terminal 1 Phase 1 opens in September of 2025, can we work with our partner agencies to, at minimum, increase frequency of buses like Route 992 and the San Diego Flyer connecting to Old Town to get them more frequent from early morning into the late night, so that there's a continuous level of service that's reliable all the time, especially given the fact that there are airport workers going to the airport from all parts of the region, and especially from the South Bay at odd hours, early morning and late night. This could assist with their commutes. And then in the midterm, could we work with our partners to determine by the Phase 2 of Terminal 1 opening how we could design and implement transit priority treatments on those roads? Bus lanes, transit lanes that guarantee reliability and convenience for bus services between downtown and the airport, and/or between Old Town and the airport. So we're thinking about these 2 options as interim solutions to make sure an ATC is feasible and implementable before any type of longer-term potential rail connection is implemented. And this is a map showing those connections for each of those routes to the 2 transit hubs and within downtown. The biggest challenge before us is to pare down the number of concepts we have. As I mentioned, there's 13 total people mover concept variations. We need to pare those down significantly and have a smaller set be environmentally analyzed in order for us to have a preferred alternative. So right off the bat, we are proposing to eliminate 2 of the people mover concept variations that require really heavy investment at Middletown Station, where a mini Central Mobility Hub is no longer being proposed. And that includes the investment in a new heavy rail platform, a new highway direct access ramp. Those things don't seem to be needed as much, so we're reducing those off the list. And then we have to evaluate the remaining based on a variety of metrics. accessibility to the ATC station locations, transit connectivity, taking into consideration our post-pandemic travel data that we're collecting now through a survey, helping us to pare down the list to a much smaller, refined set that we will environmentally analyze and identify a preferred concept for. We have to make sure we assess south leg only options of the people mover between airport and downtown. Right now, they're combined with north legs up to Old Town. Got to separate them to evaluate that in isolation. And we have to consider all of the infrastructure requirements for all the variations and update all of our costs to $2024. Some notes on our airport travel survey. We were really excited. This had been years and years in the making to update our travel assumptions to and from the airport. It's really important to conduct this survey so that we could update our transportation model. And we just completed Monday this week an airport travel survey, mostly comprised of face-to-face intercept surveying of people going to and from the airport, asking them what they use to get there, and also including employees in those survey questions, and also asking some questions about some stated preferences about how they may be willing to use transit and other solutions to get to the airport. So we'll be using that data, putting out a summary report regarding the survey in the spring, but using it more near term, using the data to help validate some of our pare down recommendations that we'll share with you all later next year. Super high level, but some preliminary insights regarding the intercept portion of the survey. They're listed here on the slide. We had about a 60% visitor, 40% kind of resident participation. We were lucky to exceed our goal of 3,450 surveys and collected 3,900. So that was encouraging, and nothing earth shattering here, but we learned so far that nearly 75% are driving themselves or being dropped off. And since we just ended on Monday, we're excited to dig into the data and get some more insights that we can summarize at a more granular level as far as ATC connection considerations are concerned. We want to continue with stakeholder engagement. This is the first of several presentations that we're doing. We're going to the MTS board and the Airport Authority board in January to share some of these updates. We aim to hold a partner agency workshop with staff from various jurisdictions represented here on this board in the spring to talk at a deep level about the pare down process and the various considerations that we have to keep in mind as we reduce the list in order for us to be environmental ready by next fall. We intend to be able to release a notice of preparation for environmental clearance for this project in fall of 2025. And all of these outreach activities listed on the slide are going to help us get there. That includes some general public engagement. We want to collect regional and urban core perspectives. We're going to put out a public sentiment poll regarding the project. And we'll be sure to, of course, hold environmental public scoping meetings as part of the NOP process in the fall. And I'll close with just showing our outlook over the next year, kind of summarizing by season what we're up to. These presentations this fall and winter, continuing the trolley concept refinement and exploring that trench option, starting the pare down so that by spring and summer, we have completed the pare down process, provided information to our partner agencies at our workshop, collected some public input from both regional and urban core perspectives, and published our airport travel study report. All to gear up for next fall of 2025 when we do plan to release a notice of preparation and begin the CEQA process. I'm happy to take any questions, and I wanted to make an honorable mention to the fact that we have planning leadership from both of our partner agencies, the airport and the MTS, in attendance, and I appreciate them being here.
Thank you so much, Marissa. And we'll go to public comments. And remember, public commenters, this is one of many opportunities you'll have to comment on this. So Francesca, could you please call them?
Thank you very much. Our first speaker will be Truth, followed by Mark.
A trolley connection will be great, but it'd have to be an airport or airline sponsored separate shuttle line to help pay for this expensive project and not impact already slow frequencies. I have seen 25 to 40-minute frequencies. Why doesn't SANDAG fix that first? MTS already has a deficit and a worker shortage. What happened to the 2019 $500 million funding packed from the Airport Authority for a trolley? Who is paring down the ATC options and how? If access is a metric, then explain how North County residents will have equal access. Why consider a South Lake only APM? Inequity. In 2019, Hassan said that Santa Fe could never be a viable connection. I'm glad to see the county station an option, but how did Old Town become an option? What is the Port Transit Station and where did it come from? Dump the convention center station, there's already a trolley. Is there a cost-benefit analysis to address an anti-people monstrosity overtaking people's homes? Has there been outreach events to the city of San Diego? Based on data, this multi-billion-dollar ATC will mostly benefit tourists and the airport. This is the typical SANDAG SOP tactic: go dark and then pressure a last-minute decision. Slow down the frequency.
Our next speaker will be Mark, who will be followed by Bill Rogers.
Mark, obviously there are a lot of shareholders making money off a lot of these options. It surprises me that nobody thinks of the most obvious thing, which is to work with nature. So we have gravity. Off the top of my head, and I didn't spend a lot of time thinking about this, and I'd like you, I'm sorry I don't know your name, but the woman giving the expert opinion here on what's going on with a nice haircut over there. You might want to consider a slide, a gravity slide. We use them for fun. If you just had a little elevator take people up, literally they could slide, and if you do the grade right, it can be a tunnel, perhaps even fiberglass, not take up much room, not cost much, not, I mean, in every way. And if you make the grade right as it lands, they'll come to a nice, slow little coming right off of a slide like you do when you're a little kid. It could work really well. I don't see any reason off the top of my head it couldn't. It just takes some supports here and there.
Thank you. Our
Please
next
consider
speaker
it.
is Bill Rogers, who will be followed by Annalisa Kane.
Excuse me, I think they rearranged those. That's backwards. I've got numbers on the top of them.
Wait, hold on. We can't hear you. The mic isn't working properly. Francesca,
Okay.
do you have control over that or?
I
Okay, we're good.
It's on
Yeah,
now.
they're in the opposite order, and I've got a slideshow. I've got numbers on the forms. Bill's 12, Annalisa's 11, Janet's 1. So you're calling them in the opposite order.
I'm sorry, I didn't realize there was a specific order you wanted to
Yeah,
present.
that's why they're numbered, and I gave them that way. So please. Otherwise, it won't match the slideshow. Okay, but I need that.
Yeah, IT is coming over to assist you with your presentation.
Yeah,
You're Janet, right?
yes.
Yeah, I believe that's Janet.
Yeah, I'm Janet. That's it. Is it coming up? It's not on the front screens.
The members are able to see the
There we go.
presentation. We have the timer up for you.
Okay, thank you. Okay. I'm Janet Rogers with the Train Coalition at Santa Fe Depot. We're wearing red today to support the trolley extension to the airport. I'm looking at the folly of rail on Pacific Highway. An elevated automated people mover, APM, puts thousands of people in condos, apartments, and hotels from Broadway to Laurel in the middle of an active rail yard. Santa Fe Depot has 6 rail tracks already east of these homes. We live in a high-density situation and use the trains, but adding 2 tracks to Pacific Highway is egregious. Where would you put the tracks? There are 2 driving lanes each direction, and 1 lane is often blocked by delivery trucks. There are 2 bike lanes and a narrow median with turn lanes. Between Ash Street and A Street, there isn't even parking. What would you eliminate to make room for the train? Please support rail to the airport using the existing trolley right-of-way and upgrade the bus. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I'll call Steve Cohn, and Steve will be followed by Sue Yezi.
Let's start. Good morning. I'm Steve Kahn.
We need the slide.
Oops. The slide.
I have the slides here. It was up there before. There you go.
All right, it's back up now. Thank you.
It's on the front. Okay.
Hi.
That works. Okay. You're fine. Gotcha.
Hi, I'm Steve Kahn. I'm on the Clean and Safe Board. I'm on my buildings, finance and building committees. And I also volunteer at Balboa Park and the zoo. I've lived downtown for 16 years. In those 16 years, I've seen many improvements. Waterfront Park, both the addition of fountains and playgrounds and new sports arena area, new bike lanes, new well-designed high rises, great development along the bay like Portside Pier. The automated people mover would not be a great addition to downtown. This map makes it clear additional issues with the APM. The map shows the proposed APM in red and existing blue and green lines. The APM duplicates tracks and stations at 4 locations: the County Administration Building, Santa Fe Depot, Civic, and the Convention Center. Why would the California Department of Transportation or the Federal Transit Administration pay for all this duplication? The Pacific Highway route of APM runs parallel to and would be only half a block from the 2 trolley tracks.
Thank you
and
very much.
multiple
Your time is
Amtrak coastal
expired.
tracks.
Our next person will be Sue Yezi, followed by Monica Thrasher.
Yeah, I'm CW. They just didn't say it.
Sue W., that was different. Okay, my name is Sue Yezi. I also live downtown and really have seen a number of improvements in San Diego over the years. The APM study, I want to compliment Marissa. I think she's doing a very thorough job and there's a lot of things to look at, but the 2 possible branches on the south side, I believe are going to be problematic. And I would ask each board member to really look carefully at the large obstacles to doing this APM. For example, BNSF freight train has no space to give. They won't, I literally don't think they have an inch of space to give. The original study had elevated trains in the green line. Practically speaking, where would they put the pillars? These are huge construction items. An APM is very, very high. There's absolutely no room at the Seaport Village trolley station for APM pillars. There's not enough room in the trolley row to put up the pillars at the convention center station either. As you know, there's only a small green strip between the trolley lines. So in the end, I don't believe
Thank you. Your time has expired.
will
Our
enhance
next
the vision of
speaker will
San
be
Diego.
Monica Thrasher, followed by Christine Bevy.
Hello, look forward. Thank you for your time. Well, that's loud. Getting federal funding under the FTA STOPS program mainly depends on visibility and ridership. In the ATC study, the APM didn't beat the trolley for ridership. That's a fact. An APM every 4 minutes couldn't beat the ridership of a trolley every 15 minutes. Staff changed the frequency from 4 to 2 minutes as a ploy for more ridership. No one is going to refuse the APM 4-minute headways, but magically decide to ride with 2-minute headways. This is flawed modeling. South Leg options is dumped in Appendix S, and per staff, it costs $4 billion to expand to Liberty Station. There are no plans to expand. The APM would dead end at the airport. What level of ridership justifies such a short route? What level? Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Christine Beebe, followed by Pat Ranzel.
Yes, I'd like to address the issue of transferring options to an airport train from the public transit system at Santa Fe Depot. Transferring to and from the APM will be slower and when compared to an airport trolley transfer. To transfer to the APM from the blue or green line trolleys, the coaster, or the bus, an individual would walk with luggage to Broadway around parked running trains and over tracks, wait for an elevator, an escalator, or use the steps to get up 3 stories to an elevated APM platform. Since ease and speed are desirable, the easier and faster choice would be to transfer to an airport trolley from other trolleys, a coaster, or the bus. Waiting on the northbound trolley platform, even with luggage, eliminates dragging your luggage up to another level after once again walking over tracks, around parked trains, and running trains.
Thank you. Your time has expired. Our next speaker is Pat Ransel, who will be followed by Ina Weitzman.
Hello, I'm Pat Ransel. I live at Pacific Highway and Ash. I'm a big supporter of public transit done right. The APM is not public transit done right. It has many problems. One problem is that according to SANDAG, SANDAG staff, a new 5-acre APM maintenance facility would be required. Look at the maintenance facility at the new LAX, for the new LAX APM system. Where would we put something like this in San Diego? It's not going to go downtown. Is it going to be in the airport itself? That's going to be very difficult. Where would you put the tracks to reach it? The APM would also require an increased labor force, new mechanics, engineers, cleaners, security, et cetera. Are those costs included? We do need good public transit to the airport. The APM is not a good solution. Extending our current trolley, especially with the new trench concept, is a much better option. The enhanced bus service is another good option. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Ina Weitzman, who will be followed by Paul Herstein.
SANDAG is conducting a federal safety rail crossing elimination study. The airport trolley version proposed by staff that includes putting the green, blue, and airport trolleys below grade from Ash to Hawthorne is a win-win situation. It increases safety at intersections. It allows the trolleys to travel faster. It eliminates traffic backups and stationary pollution at Ash, Beach, and Cedar. It improves emergency vehicles' access to downtown. It should create the ability to run 3 trains on the same tracks at 2.5-minute headways for a short distance from Santa Fe Depot to Hawthorne, which should be manageable for MTS. We think this option has the best potential for rail to the airport. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Paul Herstein, who will be followed by Annalisa Kane.
Hi, I'm Paul Herstein. Thanks for the opportunity of speaking. I'm a downtown resident. I greatly prefer public transit to cars and use the trolley frequently. I appreciate the opportunity to speak in favor of extending the trolley system and taking advantage of the system that we already have to enhance it. The advantage of going with MTS is that we could maintain a unified transit system. We have the potential to expand the current system to the airport and beyond, potentially decreased operating costs with a single system rather than trolley plus APM. We could use the same vehicle type, use a current maintenance facility, use the same staff with the same skills without duplicating tracks or stations, and decrease management costs. Thanks very much for the opportunity. Go MTS.
Thank you. I have a slip with number 10 on it, but it also says it's for item 10. So Karen Baylor, if you're actually wanting to speak on item 9, you can come to the podium now.
Good afternoon. I say upgrade to the buses now. There is a huge need to upgrade the airport buses to increase demand to even justify rail to the airport. The 19,000 daily rail riders in the airport transit study is a measly number, and if this does not justify the billions of dollars for rails to the airport. The airport flyer from Old Town and the downtown 992 bus from City College could easily run every 5 to 10 minutes. It's time to improve time performance and create more dedicated bus lines. The 992 bus can use the port's dedicated bus lines on Harbor Drive once they are implemented. A big improvement would be upgrading airport buses to luggage-friendly level boarding. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we'll go to Annalisa Kane, who will be followed by Bill Rogers.
Hello, Annalisa Kane. By the way, I'm going to the airport 3 times a week and I'm taking the bus, which is awesome. Anyhow, what about the long-term planning? Caltrans State Rail Plan has phase 2 high-speed rail to San Diego. HSR can come into Santa Fe Depot. HSR plan include a rail connection to the airport from the transit terminal around Old Town. Is there money to build 2 airport rail system? How do you reconcile these plans? Thank you.
I think our next speaker is Bill Rogers, who will be followed by Alex Wong.
Good afternoon. I'm Bill Rogers. I live at the Grand North. We already have Santa Fe Depot to the east of us. We accommodate trains constantly. Every day, every night, there are trolleys, Amtrak, coaster, and freight trains. Sticking an APM on Pacific Highway to the west of us would literally put us in the middle of an active rail yard. And that's truly an appalling idea. A commissioner in February told us to get used to living by train tracks. Please understand what you're talking about before making these types of comments. Instead of this ill-conceived APM idea, support using existing trolley right-of-way or upgrade the bus as a way to the airport. I don't think you would put rails in both your front and backyard, so please don't do that to us. Thanks for giving us the opportunity to speak and for your attention to all of our comments. Thank you.
Our next speaker will be Alex Wong, followed by Henry Agnew.
I strongly support the airport rail connection, but am concerned with the airport trolley concept, which would merge onto existing green and blue lines tracks on Hawthorne. Even with an extended trench, this would create a bottleneck that would limit green line and blue line capacity, frequency, and speed. This would limit trolley frequencies between University City and Mission Valley to Chula Vista, National City, La Mesa, and El Cajon. With University City, Mission Valley, and Grantsville set to add 130,000 new residents and 72,000 new jobs, the green and mid-coast lines each need at least 7.5-minute or better frequencies. Otherwise, trolley overcrowding and long wait times will lead residents and commuters to drive instead of take transit, increasing congestion, vehicle miles traveled, and emissions. That's why SANDAG must ensure that the airport rail connection will neither merge onto nor share tracks with the blue and green lines for any parts of its length. This will free up existing trolley tracks, allowing MTS to maximize blue, green, and airport line frequencies. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Henry Agnew, and after Henry, we will go to Paul the Bold on Zoom.
Let me try to get this up. Okay, can you see it?
We can.
Okay, good afternoon. For the airport trolley concepts, I wanted to share an alternative route that I already presented to the MTS board almost a year ago. As shown here, I would recommend also exploring whether the airport could be instead served by an extension of the existing Orange Line. The Orange Line could extend westward from Courthouse Station, past Santa Fe Depot, and then terminate at the airport. This route has the exact same engineering as Concept 6A and B, but would directly serve a much larger part of San Diego and East County. Looking at the map, this concept would give riders in El Cajon, La Mesa, and Lemon Grove, and most of downtown a direct trolley connection to the airport. This approach would seamlessly integrate the airport into a transit network that riders are already familiar with, offering significantly more connections to other MTS bus and trolley lines throughout the county. Thank you for your attention.
Our next speaker will be Paul the Bold, followed by Samsung.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, it shows how much people actually rely on MTS. When it costs a few dollars, taxis are way more, but only 25% of travelers use MTS. This is despite your wild claims of huge numbers of MTS travelers over the years. I suspect a lot of your transportation claims are way off if you do this sort of analysis. Maybe you should use NCTS instead of, or in combination. Bus is good and a lot cheaper, and probably the most practical in short term. It can provide services in one trip, which saves a lot of travel time. The people mover is simply not achievable. Lindbergh Field is too small. When it moves, bus is much more flexible and quicker to reroute. Another disturbing thing is that you only collected post-pandemic data on people movement. During the pandemic.
Thank you. Your time has expired. Next will be Samsung user, followed by Catherine Rhodes.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, got it. So, question, why is it that every SANDAG project, it has to be pitched with having pros and cons? If SANDAG pitches something huge with our money, there better be no cons, none, zilch. Step up your game or get out of trying to control our traffic and our travel. Be transparent as you preach you are. It's not about being effective or efficient for the tax-paying indentured servants. It's about control, the control of travel, the control of all movement, everywhere. It's about laying down the blueprint for the implementation of the United Nations agenda for the 21st century. So when you say you're trying to engage the public in your project plans, please do be transparent and let them know that this is what SANDAG is really doing. The illusion of them working for the people is just that. We see here that SANDAG truly is not concerned with the people's concerns. Come on, San Diego, wake up.
Our next speaker will be Catherine Rhodes, followed by Blair Beekman.
Hello, this is Catherine Rhodes, and since the beginning of this process for the airport connectivity project, I put forward my La Playa plan for a full tide reclamation, which includes a underground corridor, 40-foot by 40-foot, and then along the from the rental car service to the terminals, and then also all the way down to Imperial, 12th and Imperial. And so nobody's ever talked about that. You know, that's a cut and cover. And in general, the trolley should have already been undergrounded in those areas just for the trolley itself, not necessarily for this. But what I'm really concerned about is since 2021, I've been talking to you about the FAA information PFC update 75-21 that allows for all this to be paid for by airport revenue. Everything I said, including, let's just say, even if you wanted a terminal center, can all be paid for, but nobody has discussed it with me or even looked into it.
Thank you. Our next speaker will be Blair Beekman, and Blair's our final speaker on this item.
Hi, Blair Beekman. I wish I had more to say on this item, but I do not. This item was here at the Board of Directors a few weeks ago or a few months ago. It was a committee meeting at least, if not the Board of Directors. So I thought you had a really good conversation at that time on the subject. The trolley seems like the safest route to take for the future, but as important persons of SANDAG pointed out at the meeting, the trolley is not exactly a sure thing. And it was mentioned today that, just like the pillar issue, those large pillars may pose problems to begin with. So good luck on what you're going to need to work on. Perhaps a slimmer, more efficient system can take place. Good luck in those efforts. I like the words of Alex Wong, but I know him well, so I know his words and his thinking, and I thought he kind of had a good idea. Good luck.
Thank you. Your time has expired. That concludes the public comments on this item.
Thank you. Thank you all for coming, and thank you for those of you in all red for your organized presentation. It's appreciated. All right, time for member discussion. I have 3 so far up on the board. Councilmember Molina.
Yes, thank you, Vice Chair Huebner. Thank you, Ms. Marissa, for this presentation. It sounds very exciting. I know a connection to the airport is something that I have heard that a lot of individuals in San Diego have been wondering, why isn't there a good, solid connection to the airport? I don't know if the answer is a people mover. I appreciate all of the public commenters that are suggesting the trolley perhaps is a better option. I don't know what the answer is. I know that more work is going to happen happen before we end up coming up with a decision there, right? I just want to offer that I was recently in Dallas. I flew into Love Field and I took a bus from the airport over to their rail connection, and the rail then just took me to downtown where the hotel that I was staying at was. It was very convenient. I was not the only rider. There were several people also taking advantage of this option, and the cost to me was $3. If I had, requested a ride share through the app or, any of the other options to get to my final destination, it wouldn't have been that inexpensive. The time was a little bit longer than probably those other options, but I had the time and I wasn't carrying a lot of things. I want to make sure that the public understands that this doesn't mean that we are, you're no longer able to drive yourself or have another person drive you to the airport. That is still an option. Mr. Gil Cabrera recently invited us to check out the new parking lot at the new terminal in San Diego Airport. So this would just be another option for folks that are interested in this mode of transportation to the airport. So I'm excited about this project. And, giving you my example about having my experience in Dallas, this bus transportation was pretty convenient. So if that were going to be the final option here, I think that would be a fantastic option. Thank you.
Very good. Okay, Mayor Kranz.
Yes, thanks. The irony of having this item as the last agenda item during my service on the board is pretty strong. In a sign of how the only thing constant is change. In 2018, I was the chair of the North County Transit District, and there was a new executive director here at SANDAG who was talking a lot about big moves, and there was a lot of conversation about central, Grand Central Station sort of thing at Spawar. And in the meantime, both transit agencies, MTS board chaired by Nathan Fletcher, myself, Paul Jablonski as the executive director, and Matt Tucker were part of the airport subcommittee that looked at a number of alternatives. But my focus was on creating a connection by bus to Old Town because that is the most convenient for coaster riders. A coaster rider that has to continue to the depot spends more time on the train, and with the rental car facility and the buses that were traveling off the main road, the convenience of being able to take advantage of that same system was pretty strong. Fortunately, the airport authority was willing to fund the flyer with an electric vehicle, and I thought that was a great step. I have also taken bus 992, and it's fairly convenient, although doesn't run often enough. So we had that conversation, and we accomplished for NCTD getting that flyer in. Fast forward to the pandemic, my wife, who's spent a career as a nurse, was furloughed as the director of Women and Newborn Services at Tri-City Hospital and started to work interim assignments because ageism is real. And so she was a frequent flyer to the Bay Area. And so during that experience, I learned that my wife's love language is when I come pick her up at the airport, that means I love her. And as many times as I might have suggested she try public transit, it didn't work very well for me. So I most often came to the airport to pick her up. And that's in part because public transit just doesn't work. It's broke most of the time, whether it's the coaster that you have to wait hours for a vehicle, or the flyer doesn't come often enough. There's just many challenges with it. I tried it once and I experienced significant delays. Fortunately, because of the infrequency of the coaster, I came down early enough that I could afford the delays. But finally, the point that I would like to make is that trying to pare down the number of billion-dollar projects that SANDAG has should be primary goal at this point. And so I would encourage this board to focus heavily on rubber-wheeled solutions for this particular transit connection to the airport, because I think it's going to be a long time before the resources are available to build $1 billion project that serves so few people. And so I would encourage consideration of extending these bus options and making them work better, making them work more frequently, and try and encourage people to use these services. I don't know if you have the video. I sent a video link in to, I was surprised to hear in the presentation that Middletown has been eliminated. I took this video one day when I was kind of scouting out how we might be able to connect. And I found these travelers that were schlepping along from the Middletown station, and I thought, what if SANDAG were to work with the city of San Diego to build a bridge across the Pacific Coast Highway? And these folks were obviously making their own transit connection, but they had to schlep their stuff on down. And if you put a bridge over the Pacific Coast Highway that took them to the rental car shuttle buses, I think it would have been very convenient for them. And so I would like to encourage, once again, reconsideration of the Middletown station as a possible location to make it more connected to that shuttle bus that already runs. So anyhow, it's been a pleasure serving. I am a strong advocate for public transit, and I hope that you all will consider this alternative to a $1 billion project with steel wheel solutions.
Thank you, Mayor Kranz. Appreciate that. Mayor Minto.
Well, unlike you, Mayor Kranz, I'm not a big public transport person. I think we should put more people in cars and build more parking garages. Just kidding, Jack. Boy, the look on his face, if you could have seen that. Okay, now that I broke the ice here a minute, you know what? Maybe we just think too hard about this stuff. You know, I am at the airport frequently, and what I do is I drive down because, for instance, taking a trolley all the way from Santee or even El Cajon, you know what, and having all my personal belongings with me and maybe 1 or 2 bags, what a great opportunity for the people who want to prey on travelers. So what I do is I drive downtown, go to a parking garage, and they have a bus that takes me over. It's designed for having people on there and having luggage also. And so maybe that's something that we can do. And Gil's going to hate me for this, but we could always build our own parking structure, get our own buses, give you competition, give the other folks downtown competition. And you know what? That parking garage doesn't even have to be downtown. Because if you can drive all the way downtown, you know what, if you're going and let's say you're somewhere out on, you know, in Point Loma. I don't even know much about Point Loma, but let's say there was a big spot down there next to the, I don't know, or sports arena or something like that. You know what, people could drive down there, pay a little bit less for their parking fees, and get on that bus that goes right straight to Terminal 1 or Terminal 2. And you know what? We'd also make money off of that by, you know, having a parking garage. And, you know, that's a little bit more in the way of capitalism. But, you know, it's a whole lot cheaper, and it has a way to pay for some of this infrastructure that I guess the first question would be is, where's the money coming from? And why are we talking about this more than finishing the, like, for instance, the, you know, I-5 and 78 and all that kind of stuff first? This should be probably pushed down, hate to say push down the line, because you have to talk about stuff early enough to get it done around here. Well, except for this, because this is being talked about for about the last 5 years instead of the last 30 years. So anyways, just some food for thought.
Thank you, Mayor Minto. We're on to Deputy Mayor Edson, representing North County Transit District.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Vice Chair. NCTD's priority is ensuring connection to Coaster and Pacific Surfliner at either existing Old Town or Santa Fe Depot. This connectivity will provide transit access to the airport for residents and visitors from throughout Southern California and is critical to the success of the airport transit connection. Both Old Town and Santa Fe Depot are serviced by all transit modes, MTS trolley and bus, and CTD coaster and Amtrak Pacific Surfliner. NCTD's priorities were expressed in a letter to SANDAG and Caltrans dated June 5th, 2023. We don't have an opinion of whether it should be an APM or a trolley extension. We just think it's really important to utilize the assets that we already have and the stations that we have. With that, taking off my NCTD hat, I'd like to put on since I am here sitting at the dais, my transit rider hat. I regularly take public transit, and I've lived internationally in places and nationally here in cities like New York, and visited other cities where there is great public transit from airports to downtowns and out into the burbs. In looking at this presentation, I was surprised with the Intercept survey preliminary insights that approximately 60% of visitors and only 40% of San Diego County residents participated in this survey. So I think our goal is to encourage residents to actually travel to the airport using public transportation to reduce GHG and congestion and whatnot. If so, I encourage additional outreach that targets residents from throughout San Diego County that might not take public transit now to the airport because it's inconvenient, but might take it in the future if we make it convenient. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilmember Burkholder.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you, Mr. Orso. I did write down some comments just for pivoting more, to more sensible planning efforts for this. And thank you to staff for presenting this item to the Mobility Working Group. Prior to today's meeting, personally, I would welcome feedback from the mobility professionals on this particular subject. In Carlsbad, we're supportive of shifting away from lower performing, more expensive modes of transportation to more promising flexible fleet options, which truly are the transit leap options the region's residents desire. In Carlsbad, we are making great strides with our climate action plan and transportation demand management program that focus on GHG reduction by reducing single occupancy trips. Part of that is being in communication with our largest employers and their commuter trends. And in fact, we have a recent report that shows 63% drove alone, 26% worked from home, 4.7% carpooled or did rideshare, and only 0.1% took the coaster. Oh, sorry, I thought, can I help you with something? Again, a simple suggestion, as I spoke about last meeting, I believe, transfer funding from high cost, low performing programs to cost effective alternatives like the flexible fleets and things that we've been talking about. So with that, thank you for supporting flexible fleets and continuing to study them to connect existing mobility options with the airport. And we want to, again, welcome staff to share the comments from the Mobility Working Group. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Hsu.
Thank you. This item was before the Transportation Committee as well, so I had some practice in making some of my comments. To start out with, I think when we do our surveys, particularly on the airport, it would be nice to have some demographic information. I don't know if you already include that, because I always ask the question, who flies? We certainly want to serve the employees there, but I have a feeling we're dealing with, at least for flyers, a certain segment of our income groups in our region. And I know this item scored very high as a priority when MTS did a survey years ago with regards to trying to solve transportation transit systems in our region. But I have a feeling it's kind of a skewed thing because, frankly, other than our legislators that work in Sacramento, most of us only fly a few times a year at best. But we do want to serve the employees. So to me, that kind of puts some light onto these three options that you put before us, or these not really options, but very drastic different choices just in cost alone, they're vastly different. Right? And that's because they're really different kinds of approaches or philosophies as to how we want to go forward. Do we want to modernize our system? Do we want to do what developing, not even undeveloped countries do, which is expand bus service? Do we want to do something in between, which is continuing with our old, obsolete trolley system and extend it? Or do we want to move into what other modern cities do for their imports throughout the world, which is a modern people mover type of system? Yes, there's some huge cost differences. We're not going to move ahead on this, I think, until we as a region with the airport change our system of thinking. People who go to the airport, whether for work or for travel, needs to pay for the system. The reason why the airport built a large parking lot is because 1/3 of their income comes from the parking lot. If they built a bus stop, they have no means to get income from that. So it didn't make any sense for the airport authority to move ahead with a system to lessen the cost of people traveling to the airport and back because they wouldn't get any revenue for it. There was no impetus for the airport to reduce pollution for commuters and to reduce the cost for commuters taking a public transit system. Until we change that system in our way of thinking, we're going to be struggling here all the time. You want a space for this people mover station, a maintenance facility, tear down the part of the parking lot and you got all the space you need. And if you want money for this people mover, charge the people who use it, not charge the rest of the region. And that's a very simple system to move forward. Yes, it may increase the cost of flying a little bit. If I fly to Hawaii, maybe I should pay $10, $15 more so I can get to the airport and back. That would make sense, and actually it would make beneficial for me anyway, because then I wouldn't have to pay Uber. So I'd save money if that happened. I would actually save money. So to me, we really do have to change this thinking. I would start with airport authority itself. Its governing body needs to change this ability, the kind of thinking. They made an error. The airport authority actually was sued when they came up with the plan that they're implementing today. Part of that settlement was that the airport authority provide some funding towards this transit system, and that's why there is actual money available to SANDAG for this connector. That's the truth behind this. We have to think differently moving forward. I'm happy we have this outlay of different options, but they're very different options because they require different kind of thinking as we go forward. I don't think we should tax the rest of the county, whether it's Carlsbad, La Mesa, for a small group of people who need to fly. We need those funds for all the other systems in our region. Yes, we want an efficient system going to the airport, but let's make the people who use the airport pay for that system. There's plenty of money there. Airport authority needs to change this thinking, and we need to change our thinking as we go forward so that Mayor Kranz and I can watch this from a distance and say, gee, we can solve this problem, but we can't do it the way we're thinking and the way we're thinking the last 10, 20 years. Thank you.
Thank you. Airport Authority Board Member Cabrera.
Thank you, Chair. First, let me thank the SANDAG staff, Marissa, and everybody else that's been working with my team to make sure that any concerns or operational issues that we want to make sure you're aware of are considered as you go through the process of figuring out what works best to connect the airport. Let me correct a couple things. First, the reason the Airport Authority supported and has moved forward. There was an issue with that, but we did go above and beyond. There are FAA limitations on what we can do with federal funds that have to be used for aviation purposes. But beyond that, it was not just a little money that was set aside, council members, hundreds of millions of dollars that have been set aside under our current lease agreements for this purpose, available as matching funds. Beyond that, we are a 661-acre property, one of the smallest properties in the country, and if not the world, and yet we have set aside a significant portion of that property for a transit connection. So I appreciate the comment that the authority needs to change its thinking, but I think that thinking has been changed and we are moving forward. We built a parking lot, thanks Mayor Minto for suggesting another parking lot, adding thousands of spaces, because what we are committed to is making the experience for our visitors, by the way, a small portion, yes, but 20 million visitors a year use this airport. And there's 3 million people in the county. So it is a large portion of people that come through that airport. And the reason we build that, the reason we are supporting the transit connection, the reason we are supporting the bus, the reason we have paid for the flyer is because we want our visitors to have as many options as possible to get to the airport in the most convenient way possible for them. And so that's why we're supporting all of these efforts. So I appreciate that approach. I know that my team is committed to supporting both the transit connection and everything else. We are agnostic as to the method, as long as it works for both our operations and the traveling public. And we have the resources that have been set aside under the current lease agreements with the airlines. So I do think we've sort of kind of put as much effort as we can into that, and I will continue to make sure that we do so. So I appreciate that aspect of it. Beyond that, and I'm sorry, Chair, if you can indulge me a moment, I missed member comments. I did want to say something that's a little off topic, and that is that today the Chase Sapphire Lounge in Terminal 2 has opened. So for the traveling public that's going through the airport, it is a beautiful lounge that is rooted in San Diego. The food is provided by Ortega's Seafood, which is an amazing local chain. And so I encourage you, the traveling public that's able to utilize that facility, to do so. It's opened today. And we do have the parking available to you at the airport for now, Mayor Minto, until you bring in more competition.
Very good. Mayor Wales, you're up.
Thank you very much, Chair. So I've been on SANDAG about 12 years now. We spent billions of dollars on public transportation. And it's always surprised me and perplexed me that we talk about why people don't use public transportation, but we never talk about safety. I've been on the trolley several times. I would not allow my daughter to go on the trolley by herself. I would not send my wife on the trolley by herself. I think it's dangerous. I think people think it's dangerous. When I talk to people in the community, they say, I would never ride the trolley. It's too dangerous. And yet we build these billion-dollar systems and we don't put the infrastructure in place to protect people. If we did that, I think people might be more willing to use these systems. And I think it's a waste of money if we continue to build these expensive systems without addressing that issue. So I'm hoping that over the course of time, we can bring that into the discussion and figure out ways to prevent the problem before it happens. That and bathrooms. In El Cajon, the trolley stop doesn't have a bathroom. And so people urinate on the side of the buildings all around this. You know, these are basic concepts. And people talk a lot about Paris, and I'm guessing that Paris has bathrooms, and they probably have security. I don't know. Somebody who's been to Paris, let me know. All right. Bathrooms in Paris? Oh, wow. Well, maybe we could set the trend for the world by having bathrooms and having safety. All right. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mayor Wells. Deputy Mayor Gasterlin.
Hi, thank you. I want to thank Mayor Krantz for that video, because a few weeks ago when I was returning from a trip, that was me, except I was going uphill. I decided I wanted to explore what would it take to get from the airport to Del Mar, and the answer is 2 hours. So the easiest part was the shuttle bus that took me to the car rental center, and then Middletown Station versus Washington Station, 0.7 miles to get to Washington, 0.4 says Google Maps to get to Middletown. However, that 0.4 is not door to door. You do the door to door and it's a full half mile uphill of walking. So that's okay when you have one suitcase, you're in good physical shape, and you can walk uphill. and then Blue Line trolley. So I could take the Blue Line to Old Town. There'd be a 2-minute connection to get on the coaster. I could go to Solana Beach, take the 101 back, or stay on the Blue Line, go to campus, and switch to the 101 at the VA hospital, which is what I did. So each of these adds up, and every one of these transitions is a tough one. But exactly what you showed, that uphill walk, which was downhill for the folks that you did the video of, that's where there's a real opportunity. If we look at the Wikipedia entry for the Middletown station, and yes, it has a Wikipedia entry, it says it's 1 block to the shuttle bus at the car rental station. What it doesn't say is it's a long 1 block that's a half a mile. But I think there's really opportunity here. We have great opportunity to have shuttle buses from the Manchester Street or Manchester Avenue in Encinitas park there and take a shuttle bus to the airport. Shuttle buses from Scripps Memorial Hospital. That's where the Blue Line is. Maybe we can just encourage people to park there and get on the Blue Line, and so on. You know, there are real opportunities here, and I'd like to see us really thinking about how to use these buses to do this. So in short, we have a problem at our airport. I arrived last night at 9:47 p.m. coming from Germany. And when I went, I thought about, well, I'm going to be getting home at almost 10 p.m. I'm not going to do that uphill half-mile schlep to the Middletown station at 10:30 at night. I'm just not going to do that for exactly the reasons that Mayor Wells laid out. So I took an Uber. Well, luckily, I scheduled it ahead because there were literally over 1,000 people. I kind of did a ballpark count. In the Uber area last night, it was jam-packed shoulder to shoulder. Every one of those people was calling an Uber. The Uber backlog was 2 hours for a pickup. And luckily I had called ahead, and where was my Uber driver? He was over at the car rental station waiting for me to text him and say, I've landed. So I do think there's opportunity. So let's really try to think sensibly. And Marissa, you're doing a wonderful job. Let's think about those buses and those shuttles and the overhead people walker to go from the car rental over to Middletown Station. That's the sweet spot right there. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Jones? Oh, yeah, sure.
I'm
Excuse
so
me.
sorry.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure we're clear. The flyer runs from both terminals to Old Town directly. It runs every 20 minutes and it goes till 12:30 in the morning. So instead of the long walk from the rental car station to Middletown, I'd recommend trying the flyer. We are, and Mayor Krantz, I appreciated your comments about the flyer. We are constantly monitoring that frequency and its availability, and I am always working with my team to make sure that we're maintaining that, and if possible, increasing it over time.
Thank you very much. Mayor Jones.
I'll be quick. I was waiting to see what everyone else said to see if I had to say anything. I think for me, one of the most important things is to figure out what we can do now today that actually might be a measurable difference, and then we can reassess to figure out where the holes are in far as what we need to do moving forward. I think as much as we can possibly do with our infrastructure now, with buses and your shorter trips, that sort of thing, and then boosting that up as much as possible to figure out where we have, again, the deficiencies. Thanks.
Very good. So just a couple of things from me. I just think overall today's discussions have been kind of all along this line, and that is kind of getting real, right? We're taking a look at what can we really, really do and really deliver to people and do it in a transparent way, an accountable way, using the money that we have. We have to talk about priorities and so forth. But I think this is, it's been a really good day in terms of knowing where SANDAG needs to go and that we're actually going there in the future. So I appreciate that. I see Councilmember Hsu. If you have a just quick wrap up, I'd like to get going.
Just one quick point. At the airport, the way it's operating now, who has priority and gets to drop off passengers closest to the door versus those who take public transit? That's the answer right there of what our priorities are. Thank you.
Very good. All right. Good discussion, everybody. Before we go to closed session, let's take our continued non-agenda public comments. Francesca. How many do we have?
We have 6. If I could ask the following people to please raise your hands. Paul the Bold, Blair Beekman, phone number ending in 672, the original draw, Samsung user, and Catherine Rhodes. And I will go ahead and start with Catherine. You can go ahead.
Wonderful. This is Catherine Rhodes. And so I've been working with people at the county staff to go over my idea to add $5 to $10 billion of debt onto the successor agency to the former redevelopment agency recognized obligation payment schedule. And basically what staff said is you need to get somebody at the city council to actually do this, or the mayor to do this. They're, and I'm, of course, I haven't replied to them anymore, but what I need is a champion. I need one person to realize how we could have everything we want. For the county supervisors that are there, Joel Anderson, you can have all the money for all the drug and alcohol rehabs and the people with severe mentally illness paid for through this. I have such a great solution, but I need some help, political help. So please, somebody politically help me.
Thank you. Our next speaker will be Blair Beekman. You can go ahead.
Hi, thank you. Thanks for the meeting today. It's my feeling that the people who ride the trolley, they're not dangerous. There's not a sense of danger, but there's a sense of griminess and smelliness and dirt, and that's the fear. And people who tend to be a little more clean with their lives. But I don't think the people are violent. Good luck how we can work on the issue. It's my feeling that also that I can't thank you guys enough for teaching me a really important lesson, that if we practice openness and accountability as local city governments, it really addresses the concepts of war. It asks to work towards peace, open democracy, to address war, and that's fighting war. I think it's an awesome way to work. It gives great examples to the world, basically. Trump's going to need that. He's no guarantee he's going to work for peace. He may go into war. I'm in Cambodia. Is he going to go into war again like Nixon? Be ready. Thank you.
Our next speaker will be a Samsung user, followed by the phone number ending in 672. You can go ahead.
Okay, so Consuelo here. Brother Blair, don't be worried about that. It's a lot of nonsense. And it's up to the people. In the end, it's always up to the people and what we allow. I wanted to go back and let's see. I wanted to go back and Rebecca, you said something about I wanted to say amen to you, what you said earlier, the fact that people aren't more alarmed about how much shit is coming into our ocean water is mind-blowing. It's so sad that San Diego County is not as involved as they should be. Let's see, what else do I have to say? Oh, you said something about the EPA has more minuses than pluses. And you recognize that you wouldn't be that forgiving and make that statement for an employee working in your small business if you had one, would you? Anyways, let's see. Last thing.
Thank you. Your time has expired. Our next speaker will be the phone number ending in 672, followed by Paul the Bold. You are self-muted at the moment. You should be able to unmute by pressing *6. All right, I'm going to go ahead and move on to Paul the Bold. I'll come back to you in a moment. Paul, you can go ahead.
Okay, happy holidays to all. Take your pick. Saturnalia, Solstice, Festivus, Hanukkah, Christmas, Kwanzaa, New Year's. Many, many days to improve on last year's dismal SANDAG performance. I'm sure that your personal celebration will be a truly festive occasion. Nothing about seriously reshaping SANDAG, no audit or investigative report, no hint of what the FBI is actually probing at SANDAG. Maybe the grand jury knows. The performance report last time was weird. I'm glad Measure G failed. I hope it won't be back, and if it does come back, I hope we have arguments about more than all SANDAG's lies and mortal failings in the last decade or three. And it will take a lot more than fancy speeches and promises to restore our trust. Actions speak a lot louder than words. Like a
Thank you. Your time has expired. And Vice Chair, that does conclude the public comments on non-agenda.
Okay, very good. So we're getting close to losing a quorum here. Can everybody stay? Does anybody have a hard stop at 1:30? Okay. 1:30? Okay, so we now have to go to public comments for closed agenda item. Francesca, can you please call those speakers?
Yes, we'll start with Truth first, followed by followed by Mark.
This is called closed session. Ho, ho, ho. Not holiday, but Christmas spirit here. You guys continued great ideas. Put me in a better mood. Thank you. However, didn't I just talk to you guys about trying to not get sued all the time? You want to know how to avoid more lawsuits? Character. Good character. I've been talking about attributes of public service, not self-service, all week long. That's why I wasn't in a good mood. Please help SANDAG, as well as your local jurisdiction, avoid anticipated litigation by pledging to try to answer every email, every text and phone call, to watch every single tax dollar, nickel, or dime closely, to be courteous, respectful, and patient, to encourage your fellow residents to be involved, and to carefully consider every action you take while in a volunteer seat of government. And if you don't, not only will you be hit with multiple lawsuits like Sean Ayla Rivera and Tara Lawson-Remer have, and censures like Jose Rodriguez and Tara will get, but you'll also get coal in your stocking this year. I've got it listed and I'm checking it twice. Thank you.
Our next speaker will be Mark, who will be followed by Catherine Rhodes. Thank you. We'll go ahead to Catherine then, followed by the Samsung user.
Oh, wonderful. Catherine Rhodes. So everything the airport authority said to you regarding FAA revenue being used offsite is wrong. I recommend someone, please, in closed session, please ask for a legal opinion from our State Lands Commission and our State Attorney General if we are one of 12 grandfathered airports, and also for use of airport revenue for transit in general. Everything can be paid for 100% by airport revenue. Also, maybe this is about my whistleblower, the whole point of the whistleblower and the audit is so I don't have to sue you for violating seismic things. So when I talked to the state geologist, John Parrish, what he told me is there a geologist or engineer on SANDAG that you can sue or not sue, excuse me, go to the professional board of engineers and say that they're violating all laws because they're lying to their clients and they pretend that they've done due diligence when they haven't.
I think our next speaker will be the Samsung user, followed by Paul the Bold.
Hi, I'm Consuelo here. So, yeah, I pretty much said everything I wanted to say. Not everything I needed to say, but I probably should stress and reiterate just the reminder, the control of movement that SANDAG is presenting, or basically laying out the blueprint for this UN agenda. It is in fact that, and people can label people claiming this to be conspiracy theorists or out of their minds, whatever, man. Government purposely moves incrementally to establish what it is they need to do for the people to comply. And that is what is happening. That is why all these projects take decades. And it's just sad that other people are not catching on, but you should.
I think our next speaker will be Paul the Bold, followed by Blair Beekman.
As I was saying, actions speak a lot louder than words, like a snack table where we can all partake and celebrate. glad that the current legal squabble is only potential. Let's keep it that way and have a better 2025. Thank you.
Our final speaker will be Blair Beekman. You can go ahead.
Hi, thank you, Blair Beekman. I wanted to comment. I don't have very much of an understanding what this closed session agenda item is about. The language you use to describe it to the public, for the public meeting process, is typical. I think it's technically legal, and it's kind of the standard practice how government offers their closed meeting agendas sessions items. But it doesn't offer a sense of clarity. City of San Diego does an awesome job with their closed session agendas that really describe, what the item can be about. And I think that can be done impartially. That I hope you can work on at SANDAG. If this may be about you have a legal incident coming up with some private corporate matter or corporation, I'm not sure. But to offer those sort of simple words to the public, that would invite a lot of clarity. Good luck on how to work on that in the future. Thank you.
That concludes the public commenters.
Thank you so much. Okay, we'll now move into closed session. So everybody who doesn't need to be here, please vacate the room. And let's move into closed session as quickly as we can so we don't lose quorum.
And if it's very warm on that side, you feel free to take one of them.
Oh, okay. Okay, Francesca. We're good? Okay. Welcome back. I'll now turn it over to Alfred to report out any action.
Thank you, Vice Chair. The board met in closed session to discuss. Oh, no worries.
Yeah.
Quiet. Thank you.
Al.
The board met in closed session to discuss agenda item 10, a conference with legal counsel, significant exposure to litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9 D2. One potential case. That item was discussed and there is no reportable action.
Very good. I will now adjourn this meeting till next Friday, the 13th at 9 a.m.